Chapter 1062. Roar? Long Xie smacked his lips when he saw this scene. The three-eyed golden lion was an ancient auspicious beast, and it was extremely rare. It could also speed up the cultivation of the soul beasts around it. There were many benefits. However, its cultivation speed wasn't that fast. Long Xie guessed that the three-eyed golden lion wouldn't be more than 20,000 years old if not for the energy waves coming from his boss. However, it had 90,000 years now. One could only imagine how much the 5 energy tides had changed the soul beast. Even Di Tian only had 800,000 years of cultivation 10,000 years ago. The later it was, the harder it was for him to cultivate. He might have even surpassed the 900,000-year heavenly tribulation. He might have become a 900,000-year soul beast. The three-eyed golden lion must have sensed his boss's life aura. That was why it was so close to him. Otherwise, with the intelligence of the three-eyed golden lion, there was no way it would be so close to a human. He Wang Feng looked at the three-eyed golden lion licking its palms and couldn't help but laugh. He still had some feelings for the soul beasts guarding the Star Battle God Mountain. Ever since the 5-colored mountain had been built, soul beasts had been staying there. Since the first energy tide, more and more soul beasts had gathered at the 5-colored mountain. Most of them wanted to absorb the remnant life energy. However, they were still guarding the 5-colored mountain. Occasionally, soul beasts would take care of the leaves on the 5-colored mountain. It caused him to still look majestic and awe-inspiring, and he didn't seem flustered at all. Most of the soul beasts were inside the 5-colored mountain. However, soul beasts were very sensitive to auras. Let's go back. Wang Feng glanced at the three-eyed golden lion. Don't leave the sacred mountain for no reason. Once I change the cultivation method of this world, you will welcome a new era. Perhaps it understood Wang Feng's words. The three-eyed golden lion roared a few times. Wang Feng turned around and looked at Long Xie. He was about to leave. At this moment, a faint voice transmission sounded. Are you leaving? Wang Feng was stunned. He wasn't unfamiliar with this voice transmission. Most soul beasts in the 5-colored mountain, even 100,000-year soul beasts, rarely sensed him. However, there was a unique soul beast in the 5-colored mountain. It seemed to be able to detect him. It was probably when he woke up for the 5th time and began to control the contraction of the life energy in his body. Just like that, a mental transmission rang out in his mind. Wang Feng immediately knew that this soul beast was very unique. His mental power was able to penetrate the laws of the 5 divine kings and sense his existence. Admittedly, at that time, the laws of the 5 great divine kings were also much weaker than at the beginning. However, Wang Feng was truly surprised to find out who he was at that time. This was because he was relying on his mental strength to sense his presence. Over the years, every time he woke up, he would interact with this mysterious soul. This soul beast had been sleeping deep underground in the Great Star Do Forest, and it seemed to be severely injured. Later, after the collision of the 2 continents, the movement of the continental plates, and the energy tide, they migrated to the 5-color mountain. It absorbed the powerful life energy residue to heal its injuries. He would often fall into a deep sleep. After Wang Feng woke up for the 5th time, he began to cultivate the 1 Qi into 3 Pure Ones technique. Finally, he succeeded and created his current outer body incarnation. Later on, Wang Feng thought about the history of the God realm and vaguely guessed the origin of this soul beast. Yes. Wang Feng used his mental power to transmit into the ground. Why do you want to leave? To go out and play, of course, Wang Feng answered. What's so fun about the human world? Ha ha ha, I'm a human. Of course it's fun. No, you're a soul beast. You're a soul beast that was sealed here by the gods. Without you, the soul beasts here wouldn't be so prosperous. Wang Feng shook his head. This soul beast was a little stubborn. She always thought that he was a soul beast and not a human. She was sealed here by the gods. Wang Feng didn't want to explain to her. I once made a great wish to one of my lovers. I wanted to change the relationship between humans and soul beasts. Wang Feng continued, now I don't know if she's awake. However, I hope that after she wakes up, the relationship between humans and soul beasts will completely change. Lover? Great wish? Relationship? The soul beast suddenly said, I see, that means that your lover must be a soul beast too? You still say that you're not a soul beast? You are a soul beast. Wang Feng didn't want to waste time with this soul beast. I'm leaving. Take care. With that, Wang Feng walked out with Long Xie. The sun shone through the dense leaves and fell on the man and the soul beast, leaving behind mottled shadows that gradually disappeared into the distance. When the two figures completely disappeared, at this moment, a pitch-black figure suddenly appeared beside the three-eyed golden lion. They're finally gone, the figure let out a long sigh. Damn, why are these soul beasts so weak? I used 99% of my strength, and they still didn't want to fight me. Long Xie cursed and scolded. Along the way there was a lot of chaos. In order to quickly increase his strength, Long Xie caught a soul beast and began to challenge it. Needless to say, after this pretentious dragon recultivated, he really liked this feeling. His soul was strong and he had lived for many years. He had rich battle experience and could grasp the situation easily. Even though his soul power had just reached 100 years, ordinary 1,000-year soul beasts couldn't beat him. Even if he didn't use his draconic aura, it was useless. After 100 years, Long Xie had learned a new soul skill, Crazed Devil Cannon. Of course, this was the result of Wang Feng's combat training. In his own words, his greatest joy was to pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger, and trample on these weak soul beasts. Long Xie's strength soared along the way. With Wang Feng's guidance, his strength increased rapidly. On this day, the two of them didn't travel very quickly. Wang Feng was more focused on comprehending his life contract. Wang Feng didn't care about his soul power. He just needed to increase it automatically. On the contrary, Wang Feng focused on cultivating his spiritual power and forming his second soul crystal. Because of his soul rings, this avatar was only able to cultivate to the 10th rank in the Rainbow Mountain. However, this avatar was still cultivating his spiritual power. His current starting point was definitely many times higher than before. The mental power of this avatar had reached the same level as when he was at level 56, and was close to the state of mist. It was huge. Boss, I'm hungry, Long Xie said. I want to eat meat. Let's cook something. Wang Feng was speechless. This bastard fought for the entire morning and was exhausted. He didn't want to return to the soul realm. Wang Feng felt that nurturing soul beasts was quite interesting. From 10 years to 100 years, and even 1,000 years, if one wanted to raise them well, they would have to eat well. Fighting would consume a large amount of physical strength, and soul power replenishment was insufficient. Wang Feng glared at him angrily. End of chapter. Chapter 1063. Most of the creatures in the Great Star Dough Forest were soul beasts. Wang Feng caught a few rabbits. Then, he remembered Xiao Wu and the others. He coughed and let them go. They came to a river. Boss, why did you let those rabbits go? Long Xie was confused. The energy you released in the Great Star Dough Forest made these animals full of spirit energy. They're still young. Even if you don't eat them, I'll eat them. I'm still growing. Wang Feng coughed. Rabbits don't taste good. Eat some fish. Fish smells fishy. It doesn't taste good. Rabbits smell bad too. Why don't you mind? Rabbits smell good when they're cooked. Fish smell good when they're cooked. Long Xie didn't say anything. He used his soul power to form a rock and looked at Wang Feng. However, he chuckled after thinking for a moment. Boss, are you going to catch fish in the river? It's hard on you for my growth. Wang Feng chuckled. I'm not going to catch fish for you. As he spoke, Wang Feng picked up a few leaves. He attached his spiritual power to the leaves and condensed his soul power. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Wang Feng's eyes flashed. He stood where he was calmly. The leaves in his hand were like raindrops dancing in the sky, shooting into the water. Immediately after, the leaves connected into a line, and fish flew out from the long line formed by these leaves. Damn, boss! Didn't you fuse your soul equipment with your martial soul? Didn't you bring it out? How can you do this? Long Xie jumped to his feet and exclaimed. Wang Feng smiled faintly. With a flip of his palm, he tossed the dozen or so fish onto the shore. Even without a soul bone, your boss can still use spiritual manipulation. Even if that doesn't work, with my exquisite control of soul power, wouldn't it be a piece of cake for me to kill these fish with a few leaves? Wang Feng said. On the other side of the river, a boy around 11 or 12 years old walked out. He was holding a dagger and had a fish stuck in it. The boy was startled. He stared for a long time. Then, he looked at himself. He was soaked from swimming in the river. Master! The young man exclaimed. He was definitely an expert. The young man looked at the white-robed man in the distance, who was so handsome that it made his scalp tingle. How could he kill so many fish in the blink of an eye with a few leaves just by standing there without moving an inch? How did he do it? Thinking of this, the young man was a little excited, but also a little hesitant. At this moment, he saw that the mysterious expert had a soul beast by his side. What a strange combination! The youth hurriedly rolled up his trousers, put on his shoes, and quietly followed. Not long after, a strange aroma could be smelled. It smells so good. It smells even better than the fish I grilled. There's purple leaf juice, sandalwood, and a few other special ingredients. The young man quietly squatted at the side and watched. In the distance, the mysterious expert and the soul beast were roasting fish. Boss, you're quite skilled, aren't you? Of course. Back then, when Tang San and I were in Notting Academy for 6 years, we were self-reliant. Every time I went to the soul-hunting forest to fight, I was always well-fed. That's how I got this skill. But speaking of which, I really miss Oscar's Jinhua ham now. The young man listened and frowned slightly. Tang San? Oscar? It sounded a little familiar. He had heard it somewhere, but he couldn't remember. But something doesn't sound right. The young man listened carefully. At this moment, a faint voice sounded. Young man, eavesdropping on others isn't a good thing, right? The young man shuddered and subconsciously turned around to run. But after thinking about it, he obediently walked out of the forest and said with some shame, I'm sorry, expert. I didn't mean to. Wang Feng looked at the young man in surprise. In fact, he had noticed this young man from the beginning. He had been following him, and it didn't escape Wang Feng's perception. He thought that the other party was curious or had something to say to him. Unexpectedly, he had been eavesdropping. After saying that, the young man hurriedly handed over the fish on his dagger. I don't have anything good on me. I only caught this fish. Here, I'll give it to you. Ha ha ha. How can your grandpa Long be interested in a small fish like you? Long Xie glared at the young man and spoke the human language. Long Xie had adapted to his new body over the past few days, and he had learned to speak the human language very easily. The young man only realized that something was wrong when he heard the human language from the soul beast. How can you speak the human language? The young man's face turned pale. He took a few steps back and looked at the soul beast in fear. A soul beast that could speak the human language had to be at least tens of thousands of years old. Your Grandpa Long doesn't just need to speak the human language. I also need to eat human flesh. Rua! Long Xie roared at the young man. Wang Feng glared at Long Xie. This pretentious dragon only knows how to scare people. I'm not afraid of you. However, the young man wasn't frightened by Long Xie. He took 2 steps back and gripped his dagger tightly. He pointed it at Long Xie. Long Xie was happy to see this. Wang Feng was also surprised to see this young man. This young man's soul power is only at the 10th rank. I didn't expect him to have such courage. He's not simple. Who gave him the courage? Wang Feng was stunned. This young man has an elemental aura. His bloodline, is he Dai Mubai and Shui Yu Er's descendant? Wang Feng was stunned. 100 years after he was sealed, the 7 monsters came to see him before they ascended to the God realm. They also told him some interesting stories. Dai Mubai and Shui Yu left behind descendants for the Star Luo Empire in the mortal world. Their descendants would naturally be extraordinary, even if they couldn't become gods. Even if they didn't become gods, they could pass on their bloodlines. But why is his talent so bad? He's almost 12 years old, but he's only at the 10th rank? It was probably because the power of the bloodline had gradually weakened after 10,000 years. Wang Feng was curious. His thoughts were running wild. Long Xie was amused. He walked over to the young man. He wasn't very big. He was a little shorter than the young man. He was barely a meter tall. However, the evil dragon's fangs turned into dragon fangs and emitted cold light. With every step he took, his heavy body caused the stones on the ground to tremble. A powerful aura came out of Long Xie's body. 2 lumps grew out of Long Xie's back, and his round belly was covered in a layer of shiny rock. The rock on his head shone. The young man panicked. He forced himself to calm down. He looked at the 100-year soul beast. He was only at the 10th rank. He could barely take on a 34-year-old soul beast. That was his limit. Stop! At this moment, a delicate voice sounded. Several strands of blue-silver grass shot out from the ground. They wrapped around Long Xie's feet. The grass was very tough. It was light black. Like vines, they extended from Long Xie's feet to his entire body. In an instant, Long Xie was trapped. Wang Feng was stunned. Blue-silver grass? Interesting. Chapter 1064. Tang San and Xiao Wu didn't leave their bloodline in the mortal world. However, blue-silver grass should be very common on the continent. Wang Feng was intrigued. Wang Feng gave Long Xie a look, telling him to do as he saw fit. Long Xie snorted coldly. He didn't use any soul power. He only used his strength to howl. In an instant, all the blue-silver grass on his body broke free. At the same time, 2 figures walked out of the forest. They were a man and a woman. The man was handsome and elegant, while the woman was beautiful and spirited. The young man was stunned when he saw the 2 of them. What a powerful crag dragon! Wow, it smells so good! The beautiful woman stared at Long Xie in amazement. Then, she couldn't help but look at the grilled fish on the grill. Teacher Xiaoya, that's not the main point, right? The elegant man next to her said helplessly. He looked to be about 15 or 16 years old, but he had a calm and gentle aura. I think so. The woman hurriedly rubbed her head, looked at the young man, and said, "Little brother, come behind us. This crag dragon with a cultivation of over 100 years is not simple." The young man was stunned. No, it's a misunderstanding, but before he could finish his sentence, Long Xie looked at the 2 of them and snorted coldly. He charged at them. His body was huge, but he was so fast that it made people's hair stand on end. The elegant man and the beautiful woman jumped in fright. Crag dragons were very clumsy and ordinary soul beasts. Even a 100-year soul beast couldn't be that fast. The only outstanding thing about crag dragons was that they were very resistant to beatings. Furthermore, it was now called a stoneclaw beast. The word dragon had been removed because this type of soul beast was very ordinary, and it wasn't appropriate to call it a dragon. However, they didn't know that. Long Xie had grown very quickly. Under Wang Feng's care, he had grown in all aspects. In addition, Long Xie was a 1,000,000-year soul beast, so he was much stronger than an ordinary crag dragon. Long Xie was less than a meter tall, but he wasn't just fast when he was charging. His momentum was very strong, and his feet were very stable. The girl unleashed her blue-silver grass and 2,000-year soul rings, wrapping around Long Xie in a frenzy. However, it was only able to slow down Long Xie's momentum. It wasn't able to stop him completely. "Be careful! Xiao Ye, move aside!" The gentle-looking man suddenly rushed out, and his 3 soul rings suddenly blossomed. 2 purple and 1 black. It was the best soul ring configuration announced by the Martial Spirit Federation. However, the black soul ring was a little faint. Clearly, it had just broken through the 10,000-year level. The youth was dumbfounded. With a soul ring configuration of this level and their age, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that they were geniuses. Currently, the limit of his first soul ring was 3,500 years. However, most soul masters only had 600 or 700-year soul rings. Those that were slightly better were only 800 or 900 years old. Those that were more than 1,000 years old were very rare for teenagers. Thunderous Dragon Claw. At this moment, the gentle man was no longer gentle. A blue lightning dragon suddenly leaped out of his body. After the martial spirit possessed his body, the martial spirit leaped out. His body suddenly changed, and blue electric sparks flashed on his body. It made him look like he had a tyrannical and overbearing aura. His first purple soul ring lit up, and lightning flashed in his hand as he swiped his claw at Long Xie. Blue lightning tyrant dragon martial soul? Wang Feng's eyes lit up again. After 10,000 years, it was such a coincidence that he met 2 martial souls that were so familiar. Come to think of it, the Blue Lightning Tyrant sect hadn't been destroyed back then. Now that its bloodline had continued, it should have flourished. Dragon! Long Xie snorted coldly when he saw the claw that was filled with the power of lightning coming towards him. A strong aura suddenly blossomed from his body. Under the immense dragon's might, the gentle-looking man's blue lightning tyrant dragon martial soul showed a hint of fear. The powerful aura suppressed his martial soul. The gentle-looking man's strength and aura suddenly weakened a lot. Strange. Then, Long Xie clenched his hand into a claw, and a ball of earthy yellow light shot towards the man's lightning claw. Crazed demon fist. Suddenly, Long Xie's hands were like machine guns. Countless fist shadows appeared and bombarded the man's claw. When the first fist landed on his hand, the gentle-looking man still felt that he was fine. However, when the fists covered in thick layers of rock landed on his hand like raindrops, the enormous power caused the lightning power on his hand to be completely useless. The intense pain and the dense barrage of fists made it difficult for the man to fight back. He was shocked. This 100-year-old crazed stone dragon actually had such a powerful soul skill? Moreover, the man's defense was far stronger than the other crazed stone dragons. His lightning power could only slow down the man's attacks, but it couldn't paralyze him. Bay. At this critical moment, the woman behind him quickly used her blue-silver grass to form vines that wrapped around the man's shoulders and waist. She pulled him away from Long Xie's attack. They danced in the air. Lightning's fury. Unstoppable thunderbolt. The gentle-looking man took the opportunity to unleash his third and second soul skills after being pulled out by the blue-silver grass. His third soul skill, Lightning's Fury, was a powerful amplification soul skill. It could increase the attack power of his soul power and greatly increase his lightning attribute. He didn't want to use it earlier because he was afraid that he would kill the million-year-old crazed stone dragon with one swipe of his claw. The crazed stone beast was useless to him, so he wouldn't go that far. However, the crazed stone beast's strength had greatly exceeded his expectations. He had no choice but to use these 2 soul skills. Lightning flashed all over his body, and lightning patterns appeared on his body. In the next moment, he clenched his hand, and a ball of lightning flashed out. It struck the air like a bolt of lightning. In the blink of an eye, a net of lightning descended from the sky and wrapped around Long Xie. Petty tricks. Long Xie said indifferently, "Don't worry about it." The man and woman were stunned again. They looked at Long Xie in disbelief. Long Xie clasped his hands together, and his body began to spin rapidly. He was like a spinning top. When the net of lightning came into contact with the spinning top, countless bolts of lightning exploded. The sturdy net of lightning was quickly sliced apart by the countless rock blades. In just a moment, it was reduced to threads of lightning that looked like earthworms on the ground. The two men were stunned when they saw this. That wasn't the end. The spinning top burrowed into the ground like a rat. Boom, boom, boom. Before the two men could react, the ground beneath their feet cracked and became soft. Crack! The woman reacted quickly. She reached out with her blue-silver grass and wrapped it around a tree trunk. She wanted to pull herself up, but it was too late. That was because Long Xie's figure suddenly appeared and cut through the sturdy strand of blue-silver grass as he spun. Half of the three men's bodies were embedded in the ground. Long Xie wasn't the same Long Xie who had just signed a life contract. If Long Xie were to fight the three-eyed evil snake now, he wouldn't be able to do anything. He would win. The three men were stunned. They didn't expect this 100-year crazed stone dragon to be so intelligent and powerful. Not bad. You forced me to use 99% of my strength. You're barely worthy of being my food. Long Xie roared at the three men. Rua. Today, I'm going to eat you. The three men's faces turned pale. At this moment, a speechless voice sounded. All right, come back. You've had enough fun. Let them go. P.S. 8 chapters today. 10 chapters tomorrow. Chapter 1065. The voice rang out. The air quieted down. Only the crackling of the tree branches could be heard from the bonfire in the distance. The gentle-looking man and girl turned to look at the person who spoke. They were stunned. There was no other reason. He was too damn handsome. Wang Feng looked at the two of them staring at him in a daze and thought to himself, is my appearance really too troublesome? Should I wear a mask? Well, people don't wear masks. I don't have to be a spy, so why should I wear a mask? But it's a big influence. Being handsome wherever he goes is wonderful. Tangya and Bei were stunned. Wang Feng had been roasting fish leisurely. The battle had happened too quickly, so the two of them had been fighting Long Xie the moment they came out. They didn't notice Wang Feng. Looking at it now, it was simply astonishing. How can there be such a handsome man in the world? Wait, the two of them reacted. This soul beast. TCH, I was just playing with them. Look, I'm injured. These human soul masters are pretty strong. Long Xie plucked a strand of blue-silver grass from the ground and held it in his mouth. He pointed at the wounds on his body. Some of his skin was burnt brown. Evidently, he had been injured by the lightning net. Wang Feng's eyes flashed. Long Xie was only 100-year soul master, but after forming a life contract with him, he had a drop of Hu Yuhao's essence blood. Long Xie's soul had been tempered over the past few days. Long Xie looked like 100-year soul master, but even 1,000-year soul beasts couldn't hurt him. He was only a soul elder, but he could hurt Long Xie. 2 purple and 1 black. This man's physique is very strong. He's much stronger than a soul elder from 10,000 years ago, Wang Fengxin thought to himself. He didn't pay much attention to the battle, but he could feel that the two soul masters were much stronger than normal. Their physique, soul power, soul skills, and soul rings were much stronger. Even the young man who was only a rank 10 soul master was very strong, even though he wasn't very talented. The 5 energy tides spanned more than 6,000 years. Unknowingly, the physique of humans in this world had changed. Humans and soul beasts were becoming stronger. This was the reason why the optimal configuration of human soul rings and their limits were gradually increasing. It's just a superficial wound. You'll recover after resting for a while. Bullying a soul beast is one thing, but you're even scaring a human child. Do you have any respect for the dignity of a 10,000-year soul beast? Long Xie chuckled. No, I didn't. The moment I became your soul ring, I let go of my pride and dignity. Wang Feng. Even though he said that, Long Xie still used his soul power to open the cracks in the ground and let the three of them out. Are you guys alright? I'm Wang Feng. Wang Feng pointed at Long Xie. This is my soul-bonding beast. I was just trying to scare this kid. The three of them stared at Wang Feng in a daze. What was a soul-bonding beast? Isn't this a soul beast? He was so confused that he didn't even bother to pat the dirt off his body. To put it simply, he is my partner and follower. Wang Feng patted the smooth rock on Long Xie's head. But this is a soul beast. The youth stuttered. He couldn't understand what was happening in front of him. Tangya and Bei Bei looked at each other. They seemed to understand something. The two of them quickly stood up. Bei Bei looked at Long Xie a few times. He was stunned. With their strength, they could even defeat a 1,000-year soul beast in a fight. But now, he was completely defeated by the rock dragon who had been paying him a New Year's greeting. It wasn't the rock dragon's strength that defeated them. It was its intelligence. It had a thorough understanding of the wisdom of soul masters. This kind of wisdom made the two of them feel that the stony dragon wasn't a 100-year-old soul beast, but rather a crafty soul beast that had lived for tens of thousands of years. But now, this rock dragon was a human's partner and follower? How was this possible? How could a soul beast become a human's partner? If it was a transformed soul beast, the two of them could understand. If a transformed soul beast was a human, most humans wouldn't be able to recognize it. It was possible for it to become a partner. However, the rock dragon in front of them wasn't a transformed soul beast. It was a normal 100-year soul beast. I'm Bei Bei. She's Tangya. She's my teacher. Bei Bei was confused, but he quickly introduced the two of them. I'm Huoyu Hao, the youth said softly. As he spoke, he looked at Long Xie fearfully. At the same time, the youth introduced himself. A familiar voice sounded in Wang Feng's mind. Ding! The Ascension to Godhood chapter has been unlocked. You have successfully punched in the Great Star Dough Forest 10,000 years later. You have received a mysterious soul beast egg. It will appear in front of the host in real life. Next time it will be unlocked. See God's Pavilion. Note: this chapter will end with the host becoming one of the three gods. This familiar voice caused Wang Feng to be rather surprised. 10,000 years later, it seems like the system hasn't disappeared. It sounds a little nostalgic. Mysterious soul beast egg? Soul beasts can be born from a fetus. Why must they be born from an egg? Wang Fengxin asked. He roughly knew that the second part of the original novel would begin 10,000 years later. However, Wang Feng hadn't read the second part. He only knew one main character. He had never heard of Tangya and Bei Bei before. Huoyu Hao, shouldn't your surname be Dai? Wang Feng glanced at Huoyu Hao and asked. Huoyu Hao was stunned. How did he know that his surname should be Dai? Forget it. You can call yourself whatever you want. Wang Feng waved his hand. It seemed like he didn't want to ask any more questions. If you don't mind, come over and eat with us. Huoyu Hao, do you know how to roast fish too? Come, let's set up the roasting rack. Take it as an apology for eavesdropping on us. Huoyu Hao hurried over when he heard this, and quickly dealt with the few remaining fish beside Wang Feng. His movements were practiced. He used the white tiger dagger in his hand and quickly cut open the fish's belly and scales. He sprinkled all kinds of spices on the fish and took over from Wang Feng. Eavesdropping? Bei Bei glanced at Huoyu Hao. They had seen the soul beast attack this youth when they had just arrived. Naturally, they had helped him. Huoyu Hao was a little embarrassed as he said, Sister Tangya, Brother Bei Bei, I was the one who eavesdropped on him first. That's why his soul beast attacked me. Bei Bei and Tangya were enlightened. They were also a little embarrassed. Tangya walked directly in front of the bonfire. She swallowed her saliva as she looked at the roasted fish. Hey, what's wrong with you, human? I let you go, but you're still coveting my food? Long Xie looked at Tangya cautiously. Go away, end of chapter. Chapter 1066. Tanya looked at Long Xie with a hint of fear in her eyes. Elder, are you a soul master? At this moment, Bei Bei looked at Wang Feng before he quickly turned away. He asked carefully, I've never heard of a soul master who can fight alongside a soul beast. The mysterious man in front of him was so handsome that he didn't seem like a mortal. He exuded the aura of a peerless master, and there was a pure and flawless aura around him. Although he couldn't tell his age, Bei Bei didn't think there was anything wrong with calling him elder. What elder? Wang Feng frowned and said, Am I that old? I've just turned 18, and I'm only a few years older than you. You can just call me elder brother Wang. Long Xie had just taken a bite of the roasted fish. When he heard this, he spat it out. Ha 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 ha! Long Xie couldn't help but clutch his round stomach and laugh. Elder brother, I've realized that you're even more shameless than me. You're also a living, old monster. How dare you pretend to be young? Wang Feng said, As long as my mental age is 18, I'm 18. Do you have a problem with that? Long Xie. I wouldn't dare. When Bei Bei and Tanya heard this, they broke out in cold sweat. Could it be that this senior is very old? Actually, elder brother, you don't look that different from us. Tanya looked at Wang Feng before she hurriedly turned away. Her eyes met Bei Bei's. The two of them exchanged glances, but they didn't say anything. Yes. Wang Feng nodded slightly. The two of you can eat this roasted fish too. He's eaten enough. If he keeps eating the same food, he'll be malnourished. Long Xie, go and eat some grass. Long Xie, I'm not a rabbit. Why would I eat grass? Long Xie didn't eat any grass, but he still passed a few roasted fish to Tanya and Bei Bei. I'm a soul contract master. Wang Feng answered Bei Bei's question. He looked indifferent. Long Xie is my soul-bonded beast. Soul contract master, Bei Bei and Tanya were just about to eat the roasted fish. When they heard this, they didn't eat it. What the hell was a soul contract master? The Douluo continent had existed for so many years, but they hadn't heard of any soul contract masters. Even the Sun-Moon Empire only had soul engineers, but they were essentially still soul masters. The only difference was that they used soul tools. Soul-bonded beast? Elder brother Wang, where are you from? What is a soul renderer? Bei Bei took a bite of the grilled fish and asked. This mysterious big brother Wang did not seem like a ferocious person. Wang Feng laughed and said, Soul charmers are born from soul masters. They form contracts with soul beasts and grow together. As of now, I'm probably the first soul renderer on this continent. Me? I'm from the Star Battle God Mountain. Wang Feng pointed behind him. Tanya and Bei Bei were stunned once more. If it was said that the soul renters were very confused, then the soul renters were very confused. However, the words Star Battle Sacred Mountain were extremely shocking. He came from the Star Battle God Mountain? Tanya gazed at the towering Star Battle Sacred Mountain in the distance. That was the most mysterious forbidden zone on the continent. He had never heard of anyone being able to walk out of there. Could this mysterious big brother Wang in front of him have come from that place? The two of them looked at each other again and saw the disbelief in each other's eyes. Silence. They ate the fish silently and did not ask any questions. He didn't dare to look at Wang Feng. Your grilled fish is not bad, kid. At this moment, Long Xie patted his full belly and looked at Hoi Yuhao lazily. I've decided. Kid, you'll grill fish for me in the future, even though it's not as good as Boss's. However, it's not easy for Boss to make a move. You can replace Boss. Hoi Yuhao. He laughed awkwardly and looked at this soul beast with a little fear. This soul beast had left a huge shadow in his heart. Furthermore, its tone was even more arrogant and imposing than his father's. Sometimes, it didn't sound like a 100-year-old crag dragon. It sounded more like a 100,000-year-old dragon. Why? You're not willing? Long Xie glanced at Hoi Yuhao. Kid, if you follow Boss and become his disciple, I'll guarantee that you'll become a soul sage in 3 years, a titled soul sage in 5 years, and a god in 10 years. Do you believe me? Wang Feng. He was bragging again. Actually, he was bragging quite well. Wang Feng thought for a moment. He felt that Long Xie wasn't bragging. Cough, cough, cough. Tangya and Bebe coughed a few times. They almost choked on the bones in the fish. 3-year soul sage? Titled soul sage in 5 years? Becoming a god in 10 years? Tangya and Bebe thought, if that's possible, all the soul masters in the world can forget about living. Nobody would believe that. But I'm too weak. Huoyu Hao was a little ashamed as he said, I don't think that's possible. The expert is so powerful. I'll definitely embarrass him. Bebe, Tangya, do you really believe that? The two of them looked at Huoyu Hao in disbelief. Isn't this young man a little thick-skinned? Is that because you're too weak? Even if your talent is heaven-defying, you can't possibly do that. Wang Feng laughed and didn't say anything. Did he eat too much for no reason? Accepting someone as his disciple? Huoyu Hao might be Dai Mubai and Shui Yuer's descendant, and he might just give him some pointers. However, Huoyu Hao might be young, but he still knows how to talk. Even if he didn't believe him, he wouldn't say it out loud. Instead, he looked like he believed Huoyu Hao. He only said that it was because he was too weak. Wang Fengxin said, although he's not very talented, he's still smart. He's so young, but he's already so thoughtful. Long Xie chuckled. You sure know how to talk, roast fish boy. Not bad, not bad. Tangya and Bebe also thought it through. This young man isn't thick-skinned, all right, we've finished our fish. Wang Feng looked at them and said, I'm leaving too. The next time he checked in, he would be at the Sea God's Pavilion. This place wasn't marked on the map that Zhu Zi gave him. However, Wang Feng roughly knew where it was. It was named after the sea god. It probably had something to do with Tang San. Speaking of which, I wonder how much the Tang sect has developed 10,000 years later? Tangya and Bebe hurriedly stood up and thanked Wang Feng. Huoyu Hao also said, Sister Tangya, Brother Bebe, I'm leaving too. Goodbye. Tangya and Bebe nodded. After Wang Feng extinguished the bonfire, he continued walking forward with Long Xie. The system said that it would give him a soul beast egg. Where would it be? He still had to find a suitable body for the Qilin Lord Ice Empress. However, the Qilin Lord Ice Empress was a little special. It lived in the extreme north. Generally speaking, it would be best if it was a young ice-type soul beast. An adult soul beast's growth rate was already fixed. It wasn't easy to nurture it. On top of that, adult soul beasts usually had some intelligence, and their souls were more developed. End of chapter. Chapter 1067. This made it very troublesome to fuse with Lin Lord Bingmu's soul. Long Xie didn't have so many requirements. Since he had a soul beast egg, Wang Feng decided to stay outside the Great Star Do Forest for a few more days. Bebe, what kind of person do you think this brother Wang is? Tangya asked curiously. A soul contract master and a soul-bonded beast, that's amazing. Bebe thought for a moment and said, perhaps it's a cultivation method that we've never seen before. However, I don't know how he managed to resolve the conflict between soul beasts and humans. How can he make soul beasts listen to him? As he thought about the powerful, cunning, and intelligent 100-year stony beast, he broke out in cold sweat. During the battle, this crag dragon actually emitted a special aura that made his blue lightning tyrant dragon martial soul feel fearful. His abilities were reduced by 20%. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been defeated so thoroughly. However, the most amazing thing is that he's so handsome. Tangya chuckled. Bebe looked at Tangya and felt a little jealous. He couldn't help but ask, Teacher Xiaoya, he's so handsome. Why don't I see you staring at him? Tangya shrugged and giggled. I'm afraid that if I keep staring at him, I'll fall in love with him. Someone will get jealous. Bebe was stunned when he heard this. He looked at Tang Ye and felt a little touched. What about you? Why don't you look at him? Are you feeling inferior? Tang Ye poked Bei Bei's shoulder. Bei Bei thought for a moment and said, I'm the same as you. I'm afraid that if I look at him a little longer, I won't like him anymore. Tang Ye was stunned as she looked at Bei Bei. She immediately punched Bei Bei angrily. Don't you dare. However, she thought to herself, Brother Wang's looks are really frightening. He can actually change a man's sexual orientation, damn. Oh yes, do you think we should invite Brother Wang to join the Tang sect? Tang Ye suddenly asked. However, he has a soul beast with him. It might be a little difficult. I don't think so. Bei Bei hesitated. He's very mysterious and powerful. Who knows if he has other powerful soul beasts? Why would he join the Tang sect? The Tang sect is no longer as glorious as it was 1,000 years ago. Although the Federation, the Academy, and a few ancient sects still support us, the number of people who learn about concealed weapons is decreasing. Furthermore, Little Ye, as the sect master, you are truly unable to convince such a mysterious expert to join the Tang sect. What? Are you trying to say that I'm weak? Tang Ye immediately threw a tantrum, but there was a hint of sadness in her eyes. I didn't mean that. Bei Bei hurriedly grabbed Tang Ye's hand and said gently, although this big brother Wang is amiable and approachable, he definitely has his own pride. If we want to recruit such an expert into the Tang sect, perhaps we can inject new blood into the Tang sect, but it will be too difficult. 0-inch. What I mean is that you can consider that youth called Huiyuhao. Although his aptitude was poor, he was only 11 years old and never had stage fright. He's neither servile nor overbearing, and he has a sense of propriety when speaking. Bibi analyzed. As long as he is given a bit of training, it's not impossible for him to become a great talent. Most importantly, he's very weak. If we invite him to join our Tang sect, he probably won't refuse. Tang Ye nodded. She felt that Bei Bei's words made sense. It's a pity that this expert, Tang Ye suddenly said, right, I keep feeling that he gives me a sense of familiarity. Let me think about it. Tang Ye suddenly clapped her hands. That's him. Bei Bei, do you remember that I told you before? 10,000 years ago, when the Tang sect was first established, the brother of our ancestor Tang San was also the first grand elder of the Tang sect, right? Bei Bei was stunned. I heard you mention it before. This first grand elder of the Tang sect is a legend among legends. He's even more mysterious and powerful than our ancestor Tang San. However, does this matter? Of course it does. Tang Ye suddenly became excited. Do you know what this grand elder's name is? He's called Wang Feng. He's also shockingly handsome. If not for the war 1,000 years ago, many of our historical records and statues would have been destroyed. We should still have his statue. There's also the Shrek Academy. Let's go back to the academy. I remember that there's a statue of our Tang sect's grand elder in the academy. The more she spoke, the more excited Tang Ye became. Are you having a fever? Bei Bei looked at Tang Ye in disbelief. Do you think that this grand elder has lived for 10,000 years? He just has the same name. I've met a few people with the same name. Of course not. Tang Ye frowned. Am I that stupid? I'm saying that he might be a descendant of our Tang sect's grand elder. In order to commemorate our ancestor, he used his ancestor's name to walk the world. According to the history of the Federation, our Tang sect's grand elder was a peerless figure back then. Why is there no news of him after that? He must have left behind descendants. If he looks similar to our Tang sect's grand elder, there's a 90% chance that he's a descendant of our grand elder. Bei Bei nodded his head. It makes sense. Alright, let's go and ask Huiyuhao before we return to the academy. Soul beast egg, my soul beast egg, come and find me. Wang Feng hummed softly. They searched the great Star Doe forest for a while, but the soul beast egg didn't appear. Long Xie's strength had increased because of its fight with Tang Ye and Bei Bei. In fact, it was impossible for a 100-year crag dragon to defeat Bei Bei and Tangya. However, this crag dragon's body contained the soul of a pretentious dragon that had lived for countless years. In addition, Long Xie's cultivation speed was very fast due to the life-soul contract. The initial training was very important. It required a strong foundation. For this reason, Wang Feng asked Long Xie to wear an extremely thick layer of rock so that it could move forward. This layer of rock was Wang Feng's first soul skill, Crag Dragon Strike. It was formed from rock. This wasn't an active attack. Instead, it was a passive attack. When it hit an enemy, it could seal them. After becoming a 100-year soul ring, Crag Dragon Strike had an additional amplification effect. Its attack and defense were increased by 50%. It was also a passive effect. After it was activated, any attack would have this amplification effect. It was quite in line with his current fighting style. At the same time, Wang Feng estimated that his first purple origin would be filled with soul power when he reached rank 20. After the first strand of purple origin soul power was filled to the brim, if nothing unexpected happened, one of the 5 God King seals on this external avatar would weaken. When the first seal completely disappeared, he would be able to use 1/5 of his physical strength. It was very fast. Wang Feng's soul power was at rank 13. He would reach rank 20 in 2 months. End of chapter. Chapter 1068. Boss, there seems to be a battle ahead. Can you remove the layer of rock on my body? I'm so tired. Long Xie was walking helplessly when his eyes suddenly lit up. Furthermore, I can feel a familiar aura. Although the layer of rock on his body was made of soul power, it was still formed by Wang Feng's soul power. It wasn't light. It looked like it was wrapped in a layer of rice dumplings. Wang Feng pondered for a moment before saying, "It should be Huoyu Hao and the others. Let's go and take a look." At this moment, a burst of gray light suddenly flashed in the distant sky. A man and a beast quickly walked over. What kind of monster are you?" Huoyu Hao trembled as he looked at the huge monster in front of him. This monster was too terrifying. It was 7 meters long and was as white as jade. It looked like a silkworm. Even though it had been dug out of the soil, there wasn't a single speck of dirt on its body. It was extremely clean. There was a pair of golden eyes on its head, and there was a special golden pattern at regular intervals starting from its head. There were a total of 10 patterns, and they looked very exquisite. "I'm not a monster. I'm the Skydream Ice Worm." The monster in front of Huoyu Hao let out an angry voice in his mind. Another talking soul beast. Huoyu Hao was stunned for a moment before he heaved a sigh of relief. He didn't seem to be surprised. "You're actually not surprised by me? That shouldn't be." The Skydream Ice Worm was a little confused as he looked at Huoyu Hao. Could those soul beasts be able to use their spiritual power to communicate? I saw a 100-year soul beast that can speak just now. Huoyu Hao stared at the white silkworm and told himself that there was no need to be afraid. That expert also had a talking soul beast beside him. There was nothing special about that. A talking soul beast, ha 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 ha, burp. Are you trying to kill me by laughing so hard that you can inherit my spiritual power? The Skydream Ice Worm suddenly laughed like a human as he rolled around on the ground. "Little fellow, I'll tell you as the handsome and intelligent king of soul beasts, as well as the peerless powerhouse of the great Star Do Forest, as well as the one with the longest lifespan on the continent. A 100-year soul beast can't speak. No, I've heard it myself. It's a 100-year crag dragon. Not only was he smart, but he could also speak human language. He still has a human as his companion." Huoyu Hao retorted. Nonsense. The Skydream Ice Worm disdainfully said, "Even though I've been asleep for a long time, this place has undergone some strange changes. However, a soul beast's intelligence could be awakened in 10,000 years. However, a 100-year soul beast is equivalent to a 1-year-old human child. It's impossible for it to speak. Please do not question the knowledge of a million-year soul beast. You are lying to me. Huoyuhao took out his white tiger dagger and vigilantly looked at the Skydream ice worm. I think you should be 100-year soul beast as well. Hearing this, the Skydream ice worm was immediately enraged. Bullshit, why would I lie to you? The Skydream ice worm angrily said. If you can find 100-year soul beast that can talk, I, the Skydream ice worm, will eat all of the soil in this area. The Skydream ice worm had just finished speaking. A voice rang out from afar. Hey, it's really you, the grilled fish brat. Yo yo yo, it's really you, the silkworm cub? Hearing this voice, the Skydream ice worm's body trembled. He stiffly looked at the crag dragon in the distance. This voice, could it be? The Skydream ice worm looked at Long Xie. Brother Wang. Huoyuhao hurriedly waved at Wang Feng and subconsciously ran to his side. Wang Feng also looked at the Skydream ice worm in front of him. His eyes flickered. A million-year soul beast. There was a million-year soul beast in the Great Star Do Forest? What, don't you recognize your grandpa Long? Long Xie raised his head and looked at the Skydream ice worm mockingly. Aren't you supposed to be dead? The Skydream ice worm muttered. Why are you still alive and well? Long Xie slowly looked at him. The Skydream ice worm quivered, and hurriedly said in a fawning tone, Master Long, I'm not cursing you to die. I just miss you too much. Now that I see you, I'm so touched that I want to cry. As he spoke, a few drops of tears appeared in the Skydream ice worm's eyes. Touched? Long Xie laughed. You're probably cursing me in your heart. You can't wait to die, right? I wouldn't dare, the Skydream ice worm said softly. Master Long, why have you become like this? The 100-year soul beast that this human child was talking about, was it you? If it's you, then it's fine. Huoyuhao was speechless. Long Xie chuckled and said, You little silkworm, what did you say to this kid just now? The Skydream ice worm opened his mouth. He wanted to say that he didn't say anything. Huoyuhao said, He said that he's a million-year soul beast, and that he's the king of the soul beasts here. He set the record for the longest lifespan for soul beasts on the continent, and that he's an absolute powerhouse in the forest. The Skydream ice worm was speechless. Ha 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 ha! Long Xie was stunned when he heard this. After that, he started to laugh crazily. As he laughed, he rolled on the ground without caring about his image. King of the soul beasts? His lifespan is supreme? An absolute powerhouse? Long Xie laughed so hard that he couldn't catch his breath. I'm going to puke. Any 100,000-year soul beast can defeat a weakling like you. Ha 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 ha, don't you know how to brag? You're even more shameless than my boss. Ouch ouch ouch. Boss, I was wrong. I shouldn't have compared you. Bang. There was a loud bang. A bump appeared on Long Xie's head. Wang Feng walked in front of Long Xie. Long Xie hugged his head and sucked in a breath of cold air. The Skydream ice worm was also stunned. He looked at Wang Feng and sucked in a breath of cold air. Fuck, who's this human? How dare he hit Long Xie? This fellow is even stronger than Di Tian in the Great Star Do Forest. However, he seems to be very weak right now. Ice worm. Wang Feng looked at the jade-white snow silkworm. He had heard from the Ice Emperor that the Emperor Scorpion's food was the ice worms. He didn't expect to see one here, and a million-year one at that. Wang Feng understood what Huoyuhao was talking about. Boss, this fellow was originally a 900,000-year golden-patterned ice worm. Long Xie pointed at the Skydream ice worm and explained, more than 10,000 years ago, when you were born, he was captured by Di Tian and brought back to the Great Star Do Forest. This fellow could be considered a soul beast blessed by the heavens, and his luck was off the charts. His cultivation is all because he eats and sleeps. Long Xie was disdainful. He consumed something called the 10,000-year ice essence. He possesses extremely pure origin energy. However, he doesn't know how to fight. He can only use his spiritual power to scare others. After Tian brought him back to the great star Do forest, he was treated like a cauldron. The origin energy in his body was sucked dry. End of chapter. Chapter 1069. Wang Feng nodded slightly. The 10,000-year ice pith was a treasure in the extreme north. He was really lucky to be able to eat it to such an extent. Normally, he wouldn't be able to survive the heavenly tribulation, Long Xie said. However, he was too weak. The heavenly tribulation wasn't interested in him. This was because his aura couldn't trigger the heavenly tribulation. He only had his cultivation. Later on, he used his spiritual power to transmit his voice to me. He wanted to be my underling. He said that I would save him if I could. He was willing to let me absorb him. In fact, I didn't believe him at all. Furthermore, I was in my 8th heavenly tribulation, so I didn't care about him. I was telling the truth. Master Long, the Skydream Ice Worm, felt wronged. I thought that it would be better for you to absorb my heavenly tribulation than for so many soul beasts. Wang Feng was speechless. TSK, I didn't expect you to become a million-year soul beast. Long Xie shook his head and chuckled. You hid your aura and escaped from Tian. However, your lifespan has reached its end even though you've become a 10,000-year soul beast. Do you want to become this human's soul ring? Do you want to continue living? That's true. You don't have any fighting strength, but your spiritual power is very strong. If you become this human's soul ring, at least your spirit will be preserved. Long Xie glanced at Huiyuhao. You're really lucky, you grilled fish kid. Huiyuhao was a little confused as he looked at him. He roughly heard that this soul beast was indeed a million-year soul beast. However, the Skydream Iceworm shook his head and said, No, no, no. I don't want to become this human's soul ring. Long Xie was stunned when he heard this. 7,000 years ago there was an energy tide. Dense origin energy of heaven and earth surged out from the Star Battle God Mountain. The Skydream Iceworm looked at the Star Battle God Mountain in the distance. After those soul beasts absorbed me for 3,000 years, there was a change in the energy tide. I found an opportunity to escape. During that energy tide, the origin energy of heaven and earth covered half of the great Star Do forest. Countless mid-tier and high-tier soul beasts squeezed into the great Star Do forest, and a huge battle broke out. The soul beast that captured me, which is the Tian that you mentioned, didn't have the time to care about me. Furthermore, to them, the eruption of the world's origin energy is much better than absorbing me. Taking advantage of this opportunity, I directly escaped. The Skydream Iceworm said. Long Xie came to a realization. Wasn't that the first soul beast war? Huiyuhao seemed to have thought of something and said in astonishment, according to the Federation's historical records, after the first energy tide on the Star Battle Sacred Mountain, a great soul beast war broke out in the great Star Do forest. It lasted for a very long time, and many soul beasts died. Wang Feng's eyes flickered. He didn't know what the first great war of soul beasts was, but he knew that there had been a soul beast riot. Then you're lucky, little silkworm. Long Xie was surprised. Fortunately, the Skydream Iceworm said carefully, after that incident, I escaped from the Divine Mountain. I was afraid that Tian would capture me again. I originally wanted to leave the great Star Do forest, but there's simply too much origin energy here. I don't want to leave, so I'll hide in the ground. Later on, the Star Battle Sacred Mountain erupted with Heaven-Earth Yuan Qi twice. Each time, it became denser and denser. I didn't want to leave even more. At that time, the other soul beasts in the forest also wanted to occupy the Star Battle Sacred Mountain, and another war broke out. Tian didn't have time to care about me. At that time, my cultivation increased to 1,000,000 years, the Skydream Iceworm suddenly said. After 1,000,000 years, I was able to hide even better. Tian and the others couldn't discover me. Furthermore, after absorbing the origin energy, my lifespan increased. It wasn't just me. The lifespan of many soul beasts in the forest increased, and their intelligence increased. Although my lifespan isn't long now, it's still early. After hearing the Skydream Iceworm's words, Long Xie was enlightened. Wang Fengxin said. He didn't expect the Star Battle Sacred Mountain to have such a huge influence. Something's not right. Wang Feng looked at the Skydream Iceworm and furrowed his brow. According to what you said, your spiritual power and cultivation should be very abundant now. But why isn't the aura in your body very strong? You can sense my situation? The Skydream Iceworm was stunned as he looked at Wang Feng. This is my boss. Who do you think you are? Long Xie said disdainfully. Why don't you think you can be my boss? Boss! The Skydream Iceworm was stunned as he looked at Wang Feng. Long Xie was an arrogant existence. In terms of lifespan and cultivation, Long Xie was probably the only one who dared to challenge him. Little Silkworm, how dare you lie to your Grandpa Long? Long Xie's eyes flashed coldly as he looked at the Skydream Iceworm. Although he was only 100-year soul beast, no soul beast in the Great Star Do Forest dared to do anything to him. Spiritual power? Long Xie's soul was very strong. He was once a million-year soul beast, and he had been nourishing himself in the 5-colored Divine Mountain with Wang Feng for 10,000 years. Long Xie's soul wasn't inferior to the Skydream Iceworm's. Otherwise, his draconic aura wouldn't be so effective. This was also because his body was restricting his soul, and he couldn't release too much spiritual power. Otherwise, his body wouldn't be able to withstand it. Otherwise, those 100-year, 1,000-year, and 10,000-year soul beasts wouldn't have dared to attack him. Just his spiritual pressure alone was enough to scare other soul beasts to death. Therefore, the Skydream Iceworm's spiritual power was useless in front of Long Xie. On the other hand, the Skydream Iceworm's most powerful attribute was his spiritual and ice attribute soul power. He was already afraid of Long Xie, so of course he was terrified. No, no, no. The Skydream Iceworm hurriedly said, absolutely not. I'm weak now because… Hey, let me tell you. About 1,000 years ago, I had been hiding on the ground and cultivating. One day, I decided to go out and play, but I suddenly came across a soul beast egg. I didn't want to care about it, but this egg was too pitiful, its parents abandoned it. And at that time, the soul beast forest was invaded by a group of soul beasts. If I let it be abandoned like this, it might end up being eaten by those evil soul beasts. I thought about how lonely I would be. I gritted my teeth and brought this egg back. After that, I started to feed it. The Skydream Iceworm said softly, I fed it with my own origin energy of heaven and earth, but I didn't expect this egg to be like a bottomless pit. It absorbed the origin energy of heaven and earth from my body. The scariest thing was that I couldn't break free from it. I'm so tired. I've been sucked by this egg for 1,000 years, but it hasn't been born yet. If this continues, my cultivation will be sucked dry sooner or later. Hearing this, Wang Feng frowned slightly. It's an egg of an evil soul beast? End of chapter. Chapter 1070. The Skydream Iceworm was stunned. Master Long's boss is indeed impressive. He knows right away? He hurriedly nodded. Yes, it's an evil soul beast's egg. I didn't realize it at first, but after a few hundred years of feeding it, black patterns started to appear on the egg's shell, and it emitted dark energy. Only then did I realize that it was an evil soul beast's egg. This egg contains an extremely strong and pure aura of darkness. I was so angry back then. I was being kind. I didn't expect to feed an evil soul beast's egg. Furthermore, the consciousness inside the egg is extremely evil. It wants to suck me dry. Wang Fengxin thought to himself, is this an egg given by the system? Was it left behind when the evil soul beasts invaded the Great Star Do Forest? You're a million-year soul beast. You can't even leave an egg? Long Xie was astonished. Little silkworm, your spiritual power is so strong. If you really can't do it, can't you just extinguish the consciousness inside the egg? It's useless. The Skydream Iceworm said helplessly. After a few hundred years, the evil consciousness inside the egg has become very strong. I can't completely extinguish it even when I use my spiritual power. Furthermore, my strength and spiritual power have been weakening. Can't you just throw the egg away? Huoyuhao asked softly. Although he was only 11 years old, he knew about evil soul beasts. They were very, very terrifying soul beasts. They were very aggressive, not only against humans, but also against other soul beasts. I tried. The Skydream Iceworm said helplessly, but every time I threw it away, it would roll to my side. It has absorbed too much origin energy of heaven and earth, and my spiritual power can't block it anymore. How can it find me? I'm not good at speed. This egg is extremely hard. I've thought of many ways to break it, but they're all useless. The Skydream Iceworm continued. I had no choice but to leave this body and find a place for my spirit to reside. This young man has a mutated martial soul. He's very suitable for my spirit to reside in. As a reward, I can provide him with some help. The Skydream Iceworm glanced at Huoyuhao. You're so pitiful, you've been forced into this state by an egg. Huoyuhao whispered. The Skydream Iceworm felt extremely indignant, but he didn't know what to say. In fact, they were about to succeed, but Long Xie suddenly showed up. Boss, should we help him? Long Xie said. Those evil soul beasts had been changed by the energy of another world. It was strange for a soul beast egg to be left here. Wang Fengxin pondered. The mysterious soul beast egg given by the system was most likely this one. However, it was clear that this was not a good egg. Skydream Iceworm, why don't you live in my body? Huoyuhao looked at the baby silkworm. His heart was still somewhat kind-hearted. Hearing this, the Skydream Iceworm immediately looked at Huoyuhao with gratitude. Youngster, don't you feel the same way? It seems that you are also a lonely person. Ah, Huoyuhao stammered. I'm not alone, my parents are still alive. Due to his lack of talent, he wasn't liked by many in his family. However, my mother loves me a lot, and my father dotes on me a lot. I'm having a pretty good time, too. My mother taught me to be wary of others, and that I have to be kind. I just pity you. The Skydream Iceworm suddenly felt as if he had been dealt a heavy blow. He didn't expect a million-year soul beast to be pitied by a human. Wang Feng looked at Huoyuhao in astonishment when he heard this. If you're doing well, why did you run out? Wang Feng asked. I want to prove myself, Huoyuhao said sullenly. My father is always fighting outside. I don't want my mother to be looked down upon, so I ran out to prove myself. I want to rely on my own strength to become a soul master. Wang Feng nodded. I see. Brother Wang, can you help him? Huoyuhao asked. My mother said that I have to be kind, but I can't be foolishly kind. There's no free lunch in this world. She said that she can help me, so I'm willing to let Brother Skydream's spirit live in my body. Brother Skydream, if Brother Wang can help you, you have to pay a price for him to do so. Wang Feng looked at Huoyuhao in astonishment when he heard this. He has such correct values at such a young age. Not bad, not bad. You have a good mother, Wang Feng said with a smile. The Skydream Iceworm looked at Wang Feng carefully and said, Master Long's boss, if you can help me deal with this egg, I can use my abilities to bestow you another martial soul. Wang Feng was stunned for a moment before he laughed. I already have enough martial souls. There's no need for that. There was no martial soul in this world that was stronger than his 3 martial souls. Not to mention the primal chaos Green Lotus and the Panguak. The Angel of Light and Dark's power originated from the Origin Tribulation God King in the God realm. What martial soul could compare to it? Furthermore, the Angel of Light and Dark was something that Wang Feng had slowly developed through cultivation. Then, the Sky Dream Ice Worm was stunned. Why don't I become your soul ring? Boss Long Xie can become your soul beast. I won't lose out. The Skydream Iceworm thought to himself. No, you're already a million-year soul beast. Wang Feng shook his head and said, You don't have much growth potential. You're not suitable to be my soul-bonding beast. Wang Feng was right about this. Although the Skydream Iceworm was a million-year soul beast, his growth potential was already fixed. He only had strong spiritual power. He wasn't very aggressive. There was no need to talk about his spiritual power. If he became a soul-bonding beast, there would be changes even if he absorbed Wang Feng's essence blood. However, unless he was like the Snow Empress, who absorbed large amounts of essence blood and special treasures, there would only be fundamental changes if he used the Red Lotus Night Fire to refine his body. However, this was too troublesome. He wasn't like Long Xie, who had to start from scratch and had high growth potential. Under Wang Feng's guidance, he could become a god. Simply put, Wang Feng didn't think highly of the Skydream Iceworm. He might be of great help to him. However, he wouldn't be of much help to Wang Feng. Frankly speaking, he was still too weak. Wang Feng didn't care about his only strong spiritual power. If he was a 100-year baby silkworm, Wang Feng might have been interested in nurturing him. The Skydream Iceworm was speechless. Long Xie's boss was indeed impressive. He didn't even care about a million-year soul beast. The Skydream Iceworm broke out in cold sweat. What kind of person was he? Take out your egg, Wang Feng said. As for my request, I'll tell you later. This egg was a system notification. No matter how it was created, Wang Feng had to take it back. Furthermore, Wang Feng had some considerations. End of Chapter 1. Chapter 1071. The Skydream Iceworm didn't hesitate when he saw this. His body wriggled on the ground. An egg with black demonic patterns and ice patterns appeared in Wang Feng's vision. It was indeed the aura of an evil soul beast. And it wasn't an ordinary one either. It really is an evil soul beast's egg. Long Xie stared at the egg. The ice runes on the surface probably absorbed the little silkworm's vital qi and gained some ice attribute. That's why there are such ice-colored patterns. Actually, when I didn't think of this idea, I wanted to find Di Tian and the others to see if they could solve this problem. The Skydream Iceworm said, however, I was afraid that they would kill me if they knew about this. Evil soul beasts have a grudge against them. If they knew that I foolishly ate an evil soul beast's egg, they would probably kill me. Wang Feng walked in front of the egg. Duh. The egg jumped a few times, and suddenly released a ferocious and evil aura. The egg leaned against the Skydream Iceworm and looked at Wang Feng. It seemed like it was going to swallow him. Sticky spiritual power and the vital energy of heaven and earth surged from the Skydream Iceworm's body into the egg. The Skydream Iceworm couldn't control it. What a strong devouring ability! Long Xie was shocked. This isn't an ordinary evil soul beast. If it hatches, the entire forest will be destroyed. Wang Feng's eyes flashed. Roar! At this moment, a loud roar came from the egg. It carried strong spiritual power undulations, as if it was nurturing some terrifying living being. Huiyuhao's face turned pale, and he suddenly screamed in pain. He fainted from this roar. Wang Feng supported Huiyuhao and frowned as he looked at the egg. Is he all right? Long Xie glanced at Huiyuhao. He's fine. He's unconscious for now. Wang Feng placed Huiyuhao on the ground. He walked in front of the egg. Roar! The egg released strong spiritual power undulations. It stuck to the Skydream Iceworm's body like maggot. Sigh. The Skydream Iceworm sighed helplessly. Boss, do you have any ideas? Long Xie asked. If there's no other way, should I just swallow it? Your body is still developing. If you swallow this egg, your body won't be able to withstand it, Wang Feng said. Your boss naturally has a way. Wang Feng had many ideas. The simplest and most direct method was to bring the egg back to the Star Battle Sacred Mountain. He used his red lotus hellfire to burn the crazy evil devourer's consciousness into ashes. That might be a little cruel. Or he could use the white lotus to purify it and turn it into a pure egg. It was very likely that the evil soul beast had intentionally thrown this egg into the great Star Dough forest. It was also possible, if the Skydream ice worm continued to be fed like this, the final result would be, it was to give birth to an extremely powerful evil soul beast that would deal a devastating blow to the great Star Dough forest. The great Star Dough forest had become the territory of the evil soul beasts. This was not impossible. As long as it absorbed all of the Skydream iceworm's cultivation, the evil soul beast inside the egg would become a million-year evil soul beast. He would become even stronger. There was still another way. The Skydream iceworm looked at Wang Feng. He didn't know how Master Long's boss could deal with this egg. The scary thing about this egg was that it was very good at hiding. It had absorbed his spiritual power and cultivation. As long as it stuck to him, it could use his strength to hide. It was almost impossible for anyone to discover it, unless he took the initiative to take the egg out. The best way. Wang Feng's eyes flashed. Of course, I'll let your brother Lin's soul devour this egg. After he finished speaking, Wang Feng opened his palm. An icy light flashed across his eyes. A bright, crystal-like light appeared in Wang Feng's palm. A figure that wasn't very tall appeared. It was Qilin Lord Ice Empress. Just like Long Xie, his soul had almost dissipated after the god of destruction broke his soul ring. His soul ring was restored by the goddess of life. However, his soul had been nourishing with Wang Feng in the five-colored mountain. It was only then that he slowly recovered. Brother Lin, long time no see. Long Xie chuckled and said, Look, I have a body now. I'm going to help you find one now. Lin Lord Bingmu looked at Wang Feng and nodded slightly. His eyes were filled with vicissitudes. Although he was only a spiritual projection, his body was still very majestic. However, the Skydream iceworm was stunned at this moment. How could he, who was born in the extreme north, not know about this famous existence? You're Lin Lord Bingmu. You're the Qilin ancestor Bingmu. The Skydream iceworm was astonished. His entire body seemed to be trembling. Heavens, this was the ancestor of all beasts in the extreme north. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that he was the strongest existence. The extreme north was born because of him. How could he appear here? Furthermore, he was in a spiritual state. However, his aura was even stronger than Long Xie's. It almost suffocated the Skydream iceworm. What kind of monster is this human? How can the Qilin ancestor Bingmu's soul be by his side? What happened in the extreme north? So you're from the iceworm race. 10 golden patterns, million-year iceworm. Lin Lord Bingmu was stunned as he looked at the Skydream iceworm. It's you? You were the little silkworm that was absorbing the manifold ice essence back then, right? The Skydream iceworm was speechless. He was called the Qilin ancestor. Naturally, he knew who the Qilin ancestor was. Although Long Xie knew that he had absorbed the manifold ice essence, he didn't know that he had done it in a mysterious cave. Back then, he was extremely weak. However, he could sense that there was an existence that was so strong that his soul was terrified. It was Lin Lord Bingmu. Fortunately, Lin Lord Bingmu didn't care about him. This was because Lin Lord Bingmu was in a deep sleep. At this moment, the Skydream iceworm was astonished when he saw this ancestor. This was the most ancient soul beast in the extreme north. I'll use my essence blood to suppress the consciousness in this egg. Wang Feng lowered his voice and said, Absorb the aura of darkness in this egg. Your soul will enter this egg and be reborn. He slowly explained his plan. His essence blood was extraordinarily strong. It had been tempered by the karmic fire of the Red Lotus, used twice with the chaotic divine light, and cultivated to rank 100 in the five-colored mountain. With the strength of his original body, even if the God King of Destruction was here, he could only be crushed by him. He used his soul power and life force to cultivate the three pure ones. Naturally, his essence blood was the same as his main body's. He would suppress the evil devouring consciousness in this egg and use his purple origin patterns to absorb the aura of darkness within. He would use Lin Lord Bingmu's soul to enter the egg and destroy its consciousness. He would destroy the evil soul beast's plan. At the same time, he would allow Lin Lord Bingmu to be reborn. It was a perfect plan. End of chapter. Chapter 1072. Boss, you're too biased. Long Xie was displeased. You found me a random soul beast so that Brother Lin could be reborn in its egg. The energy contained in this egg is much stronger than the rock beast. His starting point is much higher than mine. You should train more now. You'll have the same starting point as him, Wang Feng said. You'll be stronger than him. I can't sign a life contract with him in the egg. The earlier you sign the life contract, the more useful it will be for you. After Lin Lord succeeds, he'll need some time to hatch. That's enough time for you to surpass him. Don't you understand? Long Xie pondered for a moment. Wang Feng was right. The earlier a life contract was signed, the more effective it would be. When Lin Lord Bingmu hatched, he would be at least 1,000 years old. He might even be 10,000 years old. This egg is indeed giving off an evil aura. It seems like the world has changed. Lin Lord Bingmu sighed. He didn't know about evil soul beasts yet. Let's begin then. Wang Feng walked in front of the egg. He clenched his hand, and several drops of blood dripped onto the egg. The blood was quickly absorbed by the black patterns. However, after absorbing the blood, shrill screams could be heard from the egg. My blood can't be absorbed just like that. Wang Feng shook his head as he looked at the egg. Several drops of blood dripped down. The ferocious evil devourer's consciousness inside the egg screamed even more crazily. At the same time, Wang Feng unleashed his angel of light and dark. A terrifying aura came crashing down from Wang Feng's body. It represented the power of a godly king. Even though it wasn't fully awakened, its aura was real. The light and darkness wings shone with divine light. Wang Feng's black and gold eyes flashed. The 7 purple patterns on his body shone. Instantly, the strange dark energy in the egg was absorbed by Wang Feng's purple patterns. The black patterns on the egg quickly weakened. Lin Lord! Wang Feng shouted. Lin Lord Bingmu roared. His immense spiritual power shook the heavens. His aura was even more ancient than the evil dragon's, and it shook the entire great star Do forest. Lin Lord Bingmu turned into a streak of icy light. He unleashed his aura and surged into the egg. In an instant, the egg started to shine. 2 different lights illuminated the inside of the egg, making it seem transparent. The icy mystic light represented Lin Monarch Ice Empress. The other black light was the consciousness of the evil devourer inside the egg. They were intertwined inside the egg. This egg was not small. It was about half a meter long. One could clearly see the spirit of Lin Lord Bingmu intertwining with that consciousness. Shake! Wang Feng uttered a mysterious sound. The 8 notes of primal chaos appeared again, and the consciousness in the egg was stunned by this sound. Qilin Monarch Bingmu had transformed into endless icy light and was completely annihilated. Qilin Ancestor, let me help you! The Skydream Ice Worm roared, and his jade-white spiritual power entered the egg and poured into the Qilin Lord Icemu. At the same time, the boundless Yuan Qi of heaven and earth burst out from his body. Long Xie quickly absorbed the heaven-earth Yuan Qi and used it to strengthen himself. His previous battles with Bei Bei and Tang Ye had allowed him to improve a lot. Now, his cultivation was increasing even more. In just a short while, his cultivation had reached 500 years. In less than half an hour, the magic patterns on the surface of the egg had almost completely disappeared, turning into dark patterns and beautiful ice patterns. The light inside the egg also gradually disappeared. The icy light fell into silence. Success. Wang Feng smiled. The Qilin Lord's spirit should have entered a temporary hibernation. When the time comes, it will break out of the egg. The Skydream Iceworm heaved a sigh of relief. He lay on the ground, exhausted. The golden patterns on his body were also a little dim. However, his body was very relaxed. This egg had always been a thorn in his heart. Now this thorn had been removed. It was very comfortable. Long Xie walked over and patted the egg curiously. So cold, Long Xie felt the ice in his hand and hurriedly took a few steps back. Because this egg has absorbed the Skydream Iceworm's vital energy, it has a strong ice element. It's the most suitable egg for the Qilin Lord to be reborn. Wang Feng nodded. Qilin Lord Bingmu also controls the power of absolute ice. Furthermore, in the process of killing his opponent, Qilin Lord Bingmu might have devoured a portion of the evil devouring consciousness's spirit. Mutated. Long Xie was stunned. He's a spirit of heaven and earth. This egg should have given birth to him. What else can he mutate into? I'm not sure. We'll only know after he hatches, said Wang Feng. I think he has 2 elements. Long Xie looked at the egg enviously. Although they were both recultivating, the Qilin Lord was obviously better than him. Fortunately, he had signed a life contract with Wang Feng in advance. Wang Feng hugged the egg and felt the powerful life energy within it. He was looking forward to it. After some twists and turns, he had found an opportunity for the 2 fellows who had blocked him back then to recultivate. It was a perfect solution. He also understood one of his worries. When he was fighting the god of destruction, he saw that Long Xie and the Qilin Lord were willing to come out and block that attack. To be honest, Wang Fengxin was touched. Although it didn't have much use. At the same time, it created a perfect opportunity for the 2 of them to recultivate as gods. When the Qilin Lord hatched from the egg and signed a life contract with him, everything would be settled. Benefactor, I'll agree to any request you have. The Skydream Iceworm squirmed as he spoke to Wang Feng gratefully. Wang Feng waved his hand and said, I don't have any requests. How about this? If you can help this kid, help him. If you can't, then forget it. He pointed at Huoyuhao. No matter what, Huoyuhao was still Dai Mubai's descendant. If he could give him some pointers, he would. The Skydream Iceworm didn't mean much to him. The only thing that could be useful was for Long Xie to absorb his cultivation, and quickly increase his cultivation. However, Wang Feng didn't want to do that. He only needed to absorb cultivation a few times. A life contract was meant to cultivate his soul beast and himself. Although taking this shortcut could make him stronger in a short period of time, it wasn't a long-term solution. At this moment, Huoyuhao woke up in a daze. When he heard this, he was stunned. That's easy. The Skydream Iceworm chuckled. However, this kid is too weak. He can't take much of my strength. Wang Feng thought for a moment. If Huoyuhao used a life contract with the Skydream Iceworm, it wouldn't be a bad thing for the Skydream Iceworm. However, it wasn't a good thing either. Huoyuhao was too weak. Chapter 1073. A life-soul contract was a contract of equal power. Normally, it would be most effective if both parties were of similar strength. The difference between Huoyuhao and the Skydream Iceworm was too great. Even though the Skydream Iceworm's fighting strength was weak, he was still a million-year soul beast. Huoyuhao wouldn't be able to withstand the Skydream Iceworm's immense strength. Huoyuhao's essence, blood, and spirit didn't mean much to the Skydream Iceworm. It wouldn't improve much. The difference between both parties was too great. However, The only thing that was useful to the Skydream Iceworm was that he still had his body. It was just that he had to seal part of his strength. Otherwise, Huoyuhao wouldn't be able to withstand it. Therefore, a life-soul contract supported both parties of equal strength. It had the greatest effect and the greatest improvement. It was impossible for a Class 10 Soul Master to sign a contract with a million-year soul beast. This was also where the balance of a life-soul contract lay. Even if a Soul Master with innate full soul power was extremely talented, signing a life-soul contract with a 1,000-year soul beast was already considered extremely good. Both parties would improve. The future was promising. However, 10,000 years, 100,000 years, a million years. Unless one had a heaven-defying bloodline and was valued by these soul beasts, they wouldn't sign a life-soul contract with them. However, the Skydream Iceworm's uniqueness was that he didn't have much fighting strength. He only had immense spiritual power. He was an anomaly among million-year soul beasts. Therefore, it wasn't a bad thing. This was because the Skydream Iceworm was nurturing Huoyuhao. It was similar to how Wang Feng nurtured Long Xie. Long Xie's strength was limited. When Long Xie was 100,000 years or a million years old, it would be of great help to Wang Feng. This was because Wang Feng was very strong. After absorbing the strange dark energy, the first purple origin blood pattern was already more than half filled. Wang Feng's soul power had also increased by 3 ranks to rank 16. His improvement was so fast that Wang Feng didn't notice it. Wang Feng had another reason. He didn't really want to pass down the life-soul contract. This was because he hadn't perfected it yet. He felt like he was cheating Huoyuhao if he just passed it down like this. If anything went wrong, only he could change it. He couldn't be by Huoyuhao's side all the time. If someone died, he was still Huoyuhao's senior. He couldn't face Dai Mubai and the rest. Wang Feng's intention was to sign a few more life-soul contracts. He wanted to perfect the rules within them. At the very least, he would consider passing it down after signing a contract with Qilin Lord Bingmu. "It's up to you," Wang Feng said. He didn't force the Skydream Iceworm. The Skydream Iceworm thought for a moment before saying, "I can bestow upon him a formless ice-type martial soul. His spiritual power is a little weak. Actually, I can become his soul ring because of my uniqueness. Actually, living in a human soul isn't a bad thing for me. My cultivation has already reached its limit, and I can't advance any further." At this point, the Skydream Iceworm sighed. "Boss, why don't you pass the life-soul contract to this little silkworm and this roasted fish brat?" Long Xie said. "Although you haven't perfected it yet, you can still use it as an experiment. If something happens, you can still study it. When you face this problem yourself, it won't appear." Wang Feng, that bastard Long Xie, was truly evil. He was treating the two of them like lab rat. However, after thinking about it, Wang Feng felt that it made sense. In any case, he was going to spread the life-soul contract. He wanted to see what kind of reaction it would have. This was Huoyuhao's first experiment outside of his own. Thus, Wang Feng briefly explained the soul contract to the Skydream Iceworm and Huoyuhao. Huoyuhao muttered, "Life-soul contract? Soul contractor?" He couldn't understand it. This was because the laws and mysteries contained within the life-soul contract weren't something that he could understand. Even the Skydream Iceworm found it very difficult to comprehend them. The life-soul contract was a special law that Wang Feng had comprehended from his life origin. Although Wang Feng had simplified and modified it, it wasn't something that could be easily understood. Just comprehending this level alone was already difficult. Wang Feng pondered. The people in this world weren't him. They weren't as smart as he was. He wouldn't have known if he hadn't experimented. Once he experimented, he encountered a huge problem. However, the effects of the life-soul contract still astonished the Skydream Iceworm. "Master Long's boss can't be a god, right?" Although the Skydream Iceworm hadn't seen many soul beasts before, he knew what this meant. This meant that soul beasts would have limitless possibilities in the future. If they didn't die and signed a soul contract with a human, they would obtain extremely strong growth potential, faster cultivation speed, and unimaginable evolution. Didn't this mean that they could break through that threshold, just like humans? The more he thought about it, the more astonished he was. Huoyuhao was the same. How could there be such a miraculous cultivation method in his worldview? Growing together with soul beasts? This was simply inconceivable. While he couldn't understand, he also looked at Wang Feng with admiration. Because of the stony dragon, it was obvious that this mysterious expert had really done it. He used the life-soul contract to create such a magical cultivation method? At this moment, Huoyuhao suddenly knelt down in front of Wang Feng and kowtowed. "Brother Wang, no expert. I can't comprehend the life-soul contract. However, since you've passed it to me, I want to acknowledge you as my master. I hope you can teach me. I know my aptitude is poor, but I'll work hard." Wang Feng was a little surprised as he looked at Huoyuhao. "You're enlightened." Long Xie chuckled and said, "Why do you believe what I say? 3 years as a soul sage, 5 years as a titled soul sage, 10 years as a god. Do you think I'm lying to you? If I sign this life-soul contract, does that mean I'll have a chance to cross the threshold of 1,000,000 years?" The Skydream Iceworm asked carefully. "If that's the case, I'm 100% willing. Even if this kid has a weakness, it's fine. I'll wait for him to grow. However, I can't comprehend the life-soul contract." Wang Feng thought for a moment and said, "I can guide you, but the life-soul contract is still in the testing phase. If something happens to you, it's fine. I'm willing." Huoyuhao said resolutely, "I don't need Brother Skydream to be my first soul contract beast. I can choose a weak soul beast and slowly gain its recognition. Brother Skydream is too strong for me." Wang Feng looked at Huoyuhao and nodded slightly. "Not bad. You can comprehend something like this. How about this, Skydream Iceworm? Help Huoyuhao find a suitable soul beast." Wang Feng glanced at Huoyuhao. "If you can really gain the recognition and intimacy of a soul beast, then you'll have to be careful. You should be able to comprehend some of this life-soul contract." Wang Feng suddenly neglected this point. A life-soul contract was a contract between a human and a soul beast. If one wanted to comprehend something, it wasn't as simple as just saying it and passing it on. Humans had to take the initiative to form friendships with soul beasts and obtain their acknowledgement before they could truly comprehend the mysteries of life. "So you'll be my teacher from now on?" Huoyuhao said excitedly. Wang Feng shook his head and said, "We'll talk about it again if you can really comprehend the life-soul contract." "All right." Huoyuhao was stunned for a moment before he nodded heavily. At this moment, dark clouds suddenly rolled in the sky, and a thunderclap rang out. A gray vortex suddenly appeared in midair, and a huge pressure descended from the sky, as if the sky was gradually collapsing. What a powerful spiritual force! Who is it? Long Xie and the Skydream Iceworm both looked up at the sky. Instantly, a gray stream of air descended, and one could faintly see an elderly figure about to land on Huoyuhao's body. A majestic voice rang out. "There's no one like me in this world who can grasp the sun and moon and pluck the stars. I didn't expect a fragment of my soul to exist. What a strange human. P.S. 9 chapters. I can't take it any more, there should be 8 or 9 chapters tomorrow." End of chapter. Chapter 1074. The streak of gray light flew towards Huoyuhao. However, it stopped before it reached him. The light gray figure looked very strange. It broke through the boundary? Wang Feng frowned as he looked at this figure. When Lin Lord Bingmu entered the egg, he released his spiritual power. Later on, the Skydream Iceworm used his spiritual power to help Lin Lord Bingmu, allowing his spiritual power to move heaven and earth. Was he attracted here because of this? What a strong and pure power of light and darkness, however. The figure stared at Wang Feng and muttered, "I didn't expect there to be such a fusion of two types of power in this world. Interesting, interesting." As he spoke, the figure laughed silently. He seemed to be making a decision. Finally, he landed in Wang Feng's mind. In the blink of an eye, Wang Feng's body shone brightly, and a gray shadow appeared in his misty sea of consciousness. How dare a remnant soul invade my spiritual sea? In the sea of consciousness, Wang Feng looked and asked in a deep voice, "Who are you?" The angel of light and dark martial soul in the center of the sea of consciousness suddenly emitted a dazzling ray of light, and the boundless pressure instantly expelled the gray shadow. If he was in his main body, any consciousness that dared to invade his spiritual sea would be crushed by the chaotic green lotus and Pangu Axe's suppression. His angel of light and dark had just added soul rings, but it wasn't something that a remnant soul could invade. What a powerful junior! Don't worry, I don't have any ill intentions. I can't stay in this place, forget it. The gray figure sensed the strength of the angel of light and dark in Wang Feng's spiritual sea and shook his head. Eventually, he flew out of Wang Feng's spiritual sea and landed in Huiyuhao's mind. Huiyuhao's body jerked. He felt a little confused, as if there was something else in his mind. Wang Fengxin said, "This remnant soul is arrogant. Junior? I've lived for 10,000 years. I don't think anyone on this continent has the right to call me junior. Do you think I'm young because I'm handsome? If that's the case, fine." However, Wang Feng could sense that this remnant soul didn't have any ill intentions. "Boss? What's going on?" Long Xie asked. Perhaps it was attracted by Lin Jun's soul by coincidence. Wang Feng muttered. "It's a remnant soul of a living being from another world. He doesn't have any ill intentions. Just like the Skydream Iceworm, he probably wants to find a better place for his soul to reside." He was chased out. Long Xie. The Skydream Iceworm thought to himself, "This Master Long's boss is truly a bit awesome. I reckon that I won't be able to cross this hurdle. Should he also acknowledge a boss? However, he is Master Long's boss. I guess I can only be Master Long's little brother, right?" Or perhaps the Skydream Iceworm was looking at Huiyuhao. His boss is so awesome, and he's treating this human brat pretty well. If I become his boss and nurture this kid, maybe this Master Long's boss will also take a fancy to me? After calming down, the Skydream Iceworm came up with an idea. His body gradually shrank until he became a palm-sized silkworm. Then, he leapt to Huiyuhao's side and said, "Since boss wants me to help you find a suitable soul beast, then leave it to me. Kid, you can call me Brother Skydream in the future. Once you've become stronger, your big brother Skydream will give you a hand. I'm also curious about what other things have entered your head. I'll follow you for now. You have to learn from boss properly." Huiyuhao was stunned and couldn't react. Long Xie sneered, "You little silkworm, who do you think you are? You dare to casually acknowledge me as your boss? Dream on. Why, do you still want to be my peer? At most, you can only be Master Long's little brother." The Skydream Iceworm coughed. Wang Feng laughed and said, "I have a lot of soul beast little brothers. If you want to be my little brother, you'll have to wait very long in the queue." Just the few fellows in the extreme north alone, 10,000 years had passed. There was also the energy tide of heaven and earth, and Qing Huang was present. One had to know that Qing was much stronger than ancient auspicious beasts like the three-eyed golden lion. As long as they followed Qing, their potential would be greatly enhanced. It wasn't just their cultivation speed that would increase. Those 7 fellows were also very talented. They also possessed the 4 absolutes, the myriad Elephant Valley. They definitely weren't weak now. "It's fine, I don't mind." The Skydream Iceworm chortled, "Boss, you saved my life. I'm willing to be your little brother." As he spoke, the Skydream Iceworm looked at Long Xie and whispered, "Brother Long, look. Boss has agreed." Long Xie was very unhappy that he had been demoted from grandpa to brother. This little silkworm's cultivation was very high in the past. He could trample on it as he wished. But now, he was in the same generation as him. Humph! Long Xie snorted coldly. He couldn't be bothered with this little silkworm. At this moment, the egg in Wang Feng's hand jumped, and a pure aura of life was transmitted. Wang Feng smiled and placed the egg in his soul tool. He allowed the Qilin Lord Isimu to develop peacefully. Following this, the Skydream Iceworm quickly found a spiritual-type soul beast that was around a few decades old. It was a silver-patterned silkworm. It was similar to the iceworm, but it was a weak soul beast in the Great Star Do Forest. Most silkworms were very weak. For example, the Skydream Iceworm was the only one from the Iceworm clan. It wasn't even 10,000 years old. Even Wang Feng felt that this might be luck. This silver-patterned silkworm was around 20 to 30 years old. It was also a spiritual-type soul beast. Spiritual-type soul beasts weren't very rare on the continent, due to the 5 energy tides. It was just that they were very difficult to find. This was because spiritual-type soul beasts had extremely powerful concealment technique. They could hide from Soul Master's senses. Take the Skydream Iceworm for example. As long as he wanted to, even the strongest titled Douluo might not be able to sense him. Wang Feng was naturally very concerned about this silver-patterned silkworm, which was a life contract. He found it very quickly. In fact, iceworms weren't very rare soul beasts in the extreme north. Similarly, this silver-patterned silkworm was the same. I've sensed this little fellow for a long time. How should I put it? There are many silkworms in the Great Star Do Forest. The Skydream Iceworm pointed at the silver-patterned silkworm, which was less than the size of a palm. It was very small and cute. There were no silver patterns on its body. It only glowed with silver light. Its eyes were rolling around. At this moment, it crawled to Wang Feng's feet and cried out affectionately. Wang Feng's pure aura was like poison to these weak soul beasts. However, most silkworms are food for other soul beasts, because we're too weak. The Skydream Iceworm said sullenly, "Fortunately, the heavens gave us spiritual-type soul beasts. This gives us great concealment abilities, and allows us to hide from soul beasts and humans." Chapter 1075. Wang Fengxin thought to himself, is this the theory of soul beast evolution? The spiritual type wasn't given to them by the heavens. Instead, as time passed, they evolved towards spiritual-type souls in order to survive. That's why they're spiritual-type souls now. This silkworm probably only has the intelligence of a 1 or 2-year-old human. The Skydream Iceworm said, however, its spiritual power is pretty good. It's very strong. It's perfectly compatible with your spirit eyes. Don't underestimate it. It's only a few decades old. However, it has the same bloodline as me. It'll be very powerful if you nurture it. According to Boss's life contract, it'll be a great help to you in the future. Furthermore, we're of the same race, so I can establish a spiritual connection with it. If you're in danger, I can even help you through it. Wang Feng held the silkworm in his hand and walked in front of Huoyuhao. Although the life contract wasn't complete, Long Xie's words reminded him of something. Huoyuhao was indeed a good test subject. With the Skydream Iceworm by his side, even if he wasn't around in the future, the Skydream Iceworm could protect Huoyuhao's life if the life contract was in danger. At the same time, Huoyuhao's aptitude was extremely poor. If he could sign a life contract with a soul beast, there would be a huge change. This showed how useful the life contract was. It would be even more effective at spreading information. A life contract requires a person and a soul beast to use their heart to comprehend it. Wang Feng walked in front of Huoyuhao and handed him the silver-patterned silkworm. The weaker and younger the soul beast, the easier it is to nurture it. Try to use your spiritual power to convey a friendly feeling to this silkworm. This is only a 20 to 30-year-old silkworm. Perhaps others wouldn't even want to look at it. However, a life contract can create limitless possibilities. It was too difficult for Huoyuhao to gain the Skydream Iceworm's recognition and comprehend a life contract. The Skydream Iceworm didn't need Huoyuhao's help because the difference between them was too great. It was difficult to comprehend a life contract. Unless Huoyuhao was a titled Douluo, a soul Douluo, or a genius with shocking talent, he could only truly gain the Skydream Iceworm's recognition if he helped the Skydream Iceworm overcome a life and death crisis like Wang Feng. Otherwise, the gap between them would hinder them from comprehending the mysteries of the soul contract. This proved what Huoyuhao had said before: there was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. I will definitely cherish it, Huoyuhao said seriously. Even if it's a 10-year-old silkworm, I won't despise it. My aptitude has always been poor. 10 years is enough. Wang Feng smiled. This brat was able to recognize himself. Not bad. She wasn't any worse than the mistress back then. Of course, his aptitude couldn't be compared. Wang Feng passed the silkworm to Huoyuhao. Huoyuhao carefully held the silkworm in his hand. Spiritual-type soul beasts weren't rare, but they were very difficult to find. Otherwise, he wouldn't have stubbornly insisted on proving himself by himself. The pale golden eyes in his eyes lit up slightly. The advantage of spiritual-type soul masters was that they could control their own spiritual power. Although his spiritual power was very weak, it was only slightly stronger than the spiritual power of this silkworm baby that had cultivated for more than 20 years. His perception was very smooth. However, Huoyuhao was suddenly a little excited. The silkworm baby looked at Huoyuhao and wriggled a few times. It seemed to be responding to Huoyuhao's spiritual power perception. Seems like it's going well. The Skydream Iceworm squatted on Huoyuhao's shoulder. This silkworm baby's intelligence is only 1 or 2 years old. It's actually very easy to coax. Take a few leaves and feed them to it. Wang Feng reminded. Don't just communicate with it mentally. It was best for such intelligent soul beasts to form a contract with a human. Okay. Huoyuhao was stunned. He hurriedly grabbed a few leaves from his bag and carefully fed them to the silkworm baby. These leaves were actually fragrant leaves used for cooking, and they emitted a refreshing fragrance. The silkworm baby wriggled a few times and nibbled on the fragrant leaves in Huoyuhao's hand. I liked to eat them when I was young. The Skydream Iceworm looked at the leaves in his hand and seemed to be lost in his memories. Then you feed it to other soul beasts until it's fat? Long Xia asked. The Skydream Iceworm was speechless. Wang Feng shook his head. These two fellows, very soon, the silkworm baby let out a soft cry after it finished eating the fragrant leaf. Huoyuhao became excited again. I can feel it, it's friendly towards me. It's too easy to coax, Long Xia said disdainfully. These little silkworms can be coaxed with just a few fragrant leaves. What rubbish! The Skydream Iceworm was speechless. Brother Long must be scolding him indirectly. Have you understood the life contract? Wang Feng asked. I think I understand a little. Huoyuhao felt like he understood something. I want to try. Wang Feng nodded slightly. The silkworm baby had very low intelligence. Coupled with the fact that it was compatible with Huoyuhao's spiritual spirit eyes, it was easy for it to become friendly with him. Huoyuhao used the white tiger dagger to make a small cut on the silkworm baby. As he gathered his soul power, he used it to draw an ancient contract diagram in midair. This pattern was where the law of life contracts was located. It was created by Wang Feng. At the same time, Huoyuhao softly muttered an incantation. This incantation wasn't an ordinary incantation. It was an oath. With my spirit as my soul and my spirit as the contract, we will live and die together. Our hearts will be as one, and we will never betray each other. It was similar to a great vow. Both parties swore on their spirit. The initiator of the life contract could be a soul beast or a human. Once it was signed, it couldn't be violated. The ancient diagram appeared under Huo Yuhao's body with his weak soul power. A drop of essence blood dripped out from the cut made by the white tiger dagger. At the same time, a streak of Huo Yuhao's spiritual power flowed out. This drop of essence blood entered the silkworm's body. At the same time, the silkworm's white soul ring lit up, and it flew towards Huo Yuhao. A streak of pure energy flowed from the silkworm's body into Huo Yuhao's body through the white soul ring. This was the silkworm's life energy. Under the effect of this drop of essence blood, the silkworm started to change a little. The biggest change was that this silver-patterned silkworm's eyes had lit up, and its silver body had some additional patterns. Its body became a little bigger. Wuji. The silkworm let out a long cry. It's a success. Wang Feng's eyes flashed. It was different from the contract he had signed with Long Xie. This was because he had created it himself. It was very easy for him to sign it, and what he could see was limited. However, Wang Feng had a different understanding as he watched Huo Yuhao and the silkworm sign the contract. At the same time, a strange mental power flew into Wang Feng's mind the moment the two of them signed the contract. Chapter 1076. It's the power of their soul contract. Wang Fengxin was stunned. As the creator of the soul contract, Wang Feng felt as if he had obtained some special power? Wang Fengxin was shocked. Wang Feng had never expected such a change. This power was similar to the power of faith, but it was different. Compared to the illusory power of faith, the power of this soul contract was more solid. Damn! This silver-patterned silkworm's intelligence has increased to that of an 11 or 12-year-old. At this moment, the Skydream Ice Worm exclaimed, "Isn't this a little too abnormal? It's already at the stage where its intelligence has been activated. Ordinary 10,000-year soul beasts aren't much better than this." The Skydream Ice Worm was astonished by such a change. Due to the 5 energy tides, many soul beasts had gained sentience, and many of them had gained sentience. However, a 20-year-old soul beast like this couldn't possibly have such high intelligence. Activating intelligence meant many abilities for soul beasts. The simplest one was that it didn't absorb the origin energy of heaven and earth to cultivate. Instead, it could actively cultivate the origin energy of heaven and earth. The earlier its intelligence was activated, the more effective it would be. Evidently, this was the powerful effect of the soul contract. After Huo Yuhao's spiritual power fused with the silver-patterned silkworm's body, it fused with its consciousness and activated its intelligence. Wang Feng's soul contract with Long Xie had only affected Long Xie's stony dragon body. Therefore, it didn't have much of an effect. However, Huo Yuhao's soul contract with the silver-patterned silkworm allowed him to see the changes between the two. Similarly, Huo Yuhao benefited from the silver-patterned silkworm's soul ring and part of its life force. His body was enveloped by a dim white light. The gentle energy from the soul ring entered Huo Yuhao's body and slightly changed his body's condition. Because the silver-patterned silkworm didn't actively absorb the soul ring's power, it was perfectly absorbed. It even contained some of the silver-patterned silkworm's own life force. As a soul beast, the silver-patterned silkworm had a very long lifespan. It wasn't like ordinary silkworms, which had short lifespans. In fact, soul beasts' lifespans were much longer than humans. Their life force was very strong. After the soul contract was formed, the silver-patterned silkworm's soul ring contained part of its life force and gave it to Huo Yuhao. Huo Yuhao's body started to change slightly with the help of this life energy. Due to the spirit eyes mutation, soaring dragon as a result, the meridians in his body were narrowed and disrupted. His aptitude was extremely low. Under this life force, it actually changed a bit. Wang Feng's eyes flickered. This was the result of signing a soul contract under the same circumstances. Humans gave blood essence and soul power to spirit beasts, awakening their intelligence and granting them powerful cultivation abilities. Soul beasts would bestow soul rings and life force to humans, increasing their soul power rank and changing the aptitude of a soul master. Wang Feng had expected a high-ranked life soul master to sign a contract. For example, for a 100,000-year soul beast, a life soul contract would not only provide the above abilities, but it could also break through the bottleneck with the help of a human's essence, blood, and soul power. Of course, the premise was that they had to be equal. Only a 100,000-year soul beast and a titled Douluo would have such an effect. In fact, in Wang Feng's imagination, the life-soul contract represented the laws of life. Under the effects of the laws of life, soul beasts that signed a soul contract and advanced wouldn't attract heavenly tribulations. Wang Feng's eyes flashed. Under the effects of Huo Yuhao's first life soul contract, it was as if he could see the future. Wang Feng would experiment with this in the future. He would sign a soul contract with a 10,000-year, a 100,000-year, and a million-year soul beast, and see if it was the same as Wang Feng's imagination. This kid's aptitude has changed as well. The soul beast's life force. The Skydream Iceworm said excitedly, "Boss, this life soul contract you created is really amazing. Let's not talk about those high-ranked soul beasts. Even the lowest-ranked soul beast has a longer lifespan than a human. However, due to their slow growth, it's extremely difficult for them to awaken their intelligence. Although a human's lifespan is short, their intelligence is awakened very early. Soul beasts offer their life force, while humans offer their soul power. They also exchange soul rings and blood essence. It's really amazing. Boss, you're simply a peerless genius. Right now, I want to find a powerful human and sign a soul contract with him. I want to see what changes this million-year soul beast will bring." The Skydream Iceworm was excited as he spoke. However, in reality it was just a thought. The stronger a human was, the more complicated they were. A human's heart was unpredictable. It wasn't that easy to sign a soul contract with them. Huo Yuhao was only 11 years old. Wang Feng smiled and said, "You'll have the chance." "Bootlicker," Long Xie said. At this moment, two figures suddenly flew over from afar. "Brother Wang? Huo Yuhao?" Tang Ye's surprised voice sounded. "Why are you all here?" The two of them had followed Huo Yuhao's footsteps. They wanted to find him, but they suddenly felt a strong spiritual undulation along the way. They were stunned for a long time. When the spiritual undulation disappeared, they quickly rushed over. They didn't expect Brother Wang, who had left not long ago, to be here. Could it be that they were also attracted here? "What's wrong with little brother Hua?" Bei Bei frowned as he looked at Huo Yuhao, who was surrounded by a ball of white light. He seemed to understand something. Is he absorbing soul rings? However, this method of absorbing soul rings seemed a little special. It was very gentle. It had to be known that the energy within the soul rings of soul beasts that were killed by humans was intense and violent. It required a lot of effort to absorb them, and there was a certain risk. "Don't worry, he's fine." Wang Feng looked at the two of them. The Skydream Iceworm immediately hid in Huo Yuhao's pocket when he saw that humans had arrived. He didn't want other humans to see him. The silver-patterned silkworm was still in Huo Yuhao's hand. After a moment, the white light disappeared. Huo Yuhao opened his eyes. His golden spirit eyes flashed with a streak of light. He knelt down in front of Wang Feng and said with a trembling voice, "Teacher?" He was trembling because he was emotional, excited, and grateful. "You're my only teacher from now on." Huo Yuhao's trembling voice shocked Tang Ye and Bei Bei. Wang Feng thought for a moment and said, "Get up first." Huo Yuhao was able to comprehend a life-soul contract, which meant that he had a certain level of understanding. It wasn't a big deal to take in a disciple. He could use this opportunity to observe his life soul contract. Although he couldn't teach him forever, Huoyuhao quickly stood up. Huoyuhao hurriedly stood up. Only now did he notice that Tangye and Bei had also arrived. He couldn't help but be stunned. Sister Tangye, big brother Bei, what are you guys doing here? Tangye and Bei looked at each other. We sensed a change here, so we came to take a look. Bei said, we also wanted to find you, little brother Hua. Find me? Huoyuhao was stunned. Chapter 1077. That's right. Bei looked at Wang Feng hesitantly. We invited you to join our sect. We're from the Tang sect. You know that, right? But now. Tangye also glanced at Wang Feng. She thought to herself, I don't know how Huoyuhao became this mysterious expert's disciple. It'll be very difficult for him to join the Tang sect. The Tang sect? Huoyuhao looked at the two of them in shock. Brother Bei, you're from the Tang sect? Wang Feng wasn't too surprised. When Long Xie and Tangye were fighting Bei earlier, Wang Feng sensed the aura of the mysterious heaven technique through Tangye's blue-silver grass. As for Little Three's ultimate skills, Wang Feng didn't see them. However, he could guess that these two people were most likely from the Tang sect. That's right. Tangye smiled. I'm the sect leader of the Tang sect. Sect leader? Huoyuhao didn't say anything. Wang Feng looked at Tangye in shock. Why would the Tang sect let a little girl be their sect leader? Furthermore, your abilities and talents aren't very good. He was being a little tactful. However, Tangye's talents were average in Wang Feng's eyes. Although she was much stronger than Huoyuhao, Tangye's face turned red. She wanted to refute, but she looked at Long Xie and decided against it. Teacher Xiao Ye is a descendant of the Tang sect because she has the pure blue-silver grass bloodline. Bei hurriedly explained. Isn't the blue-silver grass very common? Huoyuhao asked softly. Is there a more accurate way to describe it? Hearing this, Wang Feng glanced at Tangye and seemed to have thought of something. This little girl seems to have the blue-silver king's bloodline. She might evolve into the blue-silver emperor. Long Xie transmitted his voice to Wang Feng. Wang Feng nodded. He could tell too. Of course! Our Tang sect's ancestor, Tang San, used his blue-silver grass martial soul to become famous throughout the continent. Huoyuhao, you should have heard of him, right? I have. The Tang sect is the most powerful sect in the Federation. Huoyuhao was familiar with history. He said excitedly, It's a pity that it has declined. Sister Xiaoye, I don't mean anything else, it's fine. This is the truth. Tangye casually waved her hand and said, Ancestor Tang San's martial soul is considered blue-silver grass by many people on the continent. In fact, according to the internal records of the Tang sect, the reason why Ancestor Tang San was so powerful was because his martial soul was the Emperor of the blue-silver grass, which was the blue-silver Emperor martial soul. As for your elder sister Xiao Ye, I possess the blue-silver Emperor martial spirit's bloodline. That's why I am the sect master. After Tangye finished speaking, there was a smug look on her face. Blue-silver Emperor? Huoyuhao was indeed confused. Evidently, he didn't know anything about this. Wang Fengxin said, What bullshit blue-silver Emperor bloodline? According to Little Three's situation, the blue-silver Emperor bloodline could only be passed down from his mother. You're not the descendant of her mother, Ayan, and you can't possibly be the descendant of Tang San. How could he possess the bloodline of the blue-silver Emperor? Unless the same thing happened to Ayan. There was a blue-silver grass that cultivated to 100,000 years and became a blue-silver Emperor. It took human form and gave birth to offspring. Only then would it be possible. Otherwise, a human's blue-silver grass would mutate into the blue-silver Emperor martial spirit. If there wasn't any special opportunity, it wouldn't mutate into the blue-silver Emperor martial spirit. Long Xie could sense that Tang Ye's blue-silver emperor martial spirit was one level lower than the blue-silver emperor martial spirit. It was very likely that it was a rare mutation. You don't know this, but the Tang sect nurtured many soul masters with the blue-silver grass martial spirit. However, none of them had the blue-silver emperor martial spirit. That was until my mother's martial spirit mutated. It changed from blue-silver grass to another blue-silver grass martial spirit. Back then, the Tang sect thought that it was the blue-silver emperor martial spirit. Tang Yu was a little proud. I happened to inherit my parents' martial spirit. After hearing this, Wang Fengxin thought that it was indeed the case. Tang Ye's mother's mutated blue-silver grass martial spirit wasn't the blue-silver emperor martial spirit. It was the blue-silver emperor martial spirit. In fact, only Little Three had the blue-silver emperor martial spirit. After such a long time, it was already good that they still knew about the blue-silver emperor martial spirit. They probably hadn't seen it before, which was why they mistook it for the blue-silver emperor martial spirit. However, having the blue-silver emperor martial spirit meant that she had the qualifications to become the blue-silver emperor martial spirit. However, the probability of it mutating was so low that it made one's hair stand on end. Oh! Huo Hao nodded. Suddenly, he said seriously, Sister Tang Ye, although I want to join the Tang sect, I've always admired the Tang sect. However, I have a teacher now. I can't casually join other powers. I'm sorry. Tang Yen and Bei Bei looked at each other. They knew that this would be the case. At this moment, Wang Feng waved his hand and said, Little rat, although I've become your teacher, I won't teach you. However, I won't often give you pointers. If you want to join other powers, you can join them. Learning more is a good thing. Huo Hao was stunned. He looked at Wang Feng and felt touched. Teacher must know that I want to join the Tang sect. That's why he said this. Wang Fengxin said, I don't have the time to care about you. Tang Ye and Bei Bei, on the other hand, had happy looks on their faces. Although the Tang sect is declining now, we're still very powerful. Tang Ye quickly said, although the Tang sect's hidden weapons have weakened due to the appearance of soul tools, the Tang sect's hidden weapons are still very powerful. The most powerful hidden weapons can still threaten a titled Douluo. Apart from that, we still have many secret techniques. Although we don't have many powerful individuals, all of them have great potential. Thousands of years ago, during the Long War with the Sun-Moon continent, the Tang sect joined forces with several other large sections. Under the leadership of the Federation, we defeated the Sun-Moon continent. Our hidden weapons played a very important role. Furthermore, the Federation's central martial soul palace has reserved one of the 12 Douluo heavenly kings for the Tang sect. You have to know that these 12 Douluo heavenly kings are the strongest and most powerful existences in the Federation. They decide the future and direction of the Federation. There's also the continent's strongest academy, the Shrek Academy. They've also reserved a special entry for the Tang sect. Tang Ye poured all the advantages of the Tang sect into Huo Hao's mind. As for Wang Feng, he was rather familiar with these names. Back then, Bibidan had created the Central Martial Soul Palace under his suggestion. They had also added the 12 Douluo heavenly kings to restrict the development of the 3 political regions of the Federation. These were all originally conceived. After that, Bibidan had integrated the 2 empires and the Martial Soul Alliance within 100 years. They had divided the 3 political regions, established the Central Martial Soul Palace, and appointed the 12 Douluo heavenly kings. They were all very famous chronicles. There was also the Shrek Academy. The world had changed, and history had changed. He didn't know what it was like now. Chapter 1078. If you agree, I'll join. Huo Hao was a little excited. The temperament of a youth. Tang Ye glanced at Wang Feng, her guesses growing. That's great. Bei Bei glanced at Huo Hao, then suddenly whispered to Tang Ye, It's so strange. Xiao Ye, do you feel it? Huoyuhao's body has become stronger. How can there be such a huge change after absorbing a 10-year soul ring? Tangya was stunned. She looked at Huoyuhao, and indeed felt that way. Then, Tangya and Bei looked at Wang Feng. Huoyuhao had become his disciple, so the change was naturally related to him. Yuhao, you've already become a soul master, so you can join the academy. Tangya muttered, our Tang sect has a quota to enter the Shrek Academy every year. We can recommend you to join the Shrek Academy. Bei and I are currently studying in the academy. Shrek Academy? Huoyuhao became even more excited. Every single person in the Martial Spirit Federation knew of this academy's name. However, it was extremely difficult to enter. With his talent, it was impossible for him to have the chance to enter. If he could enter to study, thinking of this, Huoyuhao looked at Wang Feng. In his heart, this elder brother Wang, the teacher who had imparted him his life-soul contract, was second only to his parents. Go. Wang Feng smiled, then transmitted his voice. The Shrek Academy is a good place. However, don't talk about the life-soul contract. Also, don't reveal your silkworm baby. The human world is very complicated, and it's still very weak. Once it dies, your soul ring will break, and it'll be a huge loss for you. This loss is irreversible. You have to protect it with your life. It'll also repay you with its life. Quickly raise its cultivation to 100-year soul ring, then your soul ring will create a soul domain space. You can keep it in your soul domain space, so that it won't be discovered. Do you understand? Huoyuhao was stunned, then nodded heavily. A life-soul contract was very important. Wang Feng hadn't completely spread it yet, so these soul beasts were still very dangerous. Teacher, you're so powerful. At this moment, Huoyuhao seemed to have thought of something. Why don't you join the Shrek Academy and become a teacher? This way, you'll be able to spread the word about the soul-contracted master. I believe that the life-soul contract will change even more people. After signing the life-soul contract with the silver-striped silkworm, he could clearly feel the changes in his body. Even the speed at which he absorbed heaven and earth yuan qi had increased by several times. What did this mean? Could a life-soul contract increase the aptitude of a soul master? Although he didn't know how much he had improved, it was a huge change for him. If one were to judge his innate soul power by rank, his innate soul power was rank 1 before, but now it should have risen to rank 2. This was a huge help to many soul masters. In the future, with the life-soul contract, even having innate full soul power wouldn't be rare anymore. He might even surpass the limit of innate rank 10 full soul power. It would allow a soul master's aptitude to reach an even higher level. It's not that easy to be a teacher at Shrek Academy. Tangya hesitated for a moment and said, usually, the starting point is to have the strength of a soul emperor. This is just the entry requirement. There are countless other requirements. Moreover, Shrek Academy is in the Federation's main district, close to the Great Star Do Forest. Because of soul rings, they have been fighting with soul beasts for many years. The cultivation method of a soul-contracted master will be greatly rejected. No one will believe or acknowledge it. Hearing this, Huoyuhao's face turned red and he retorted, no, the life-soul contract created by a teacher will definitely be recognized. Wang Feng waved his hand and said, is the Sea God's Pavilion in Shrek Academy? He wasn't interested in becoming a teacher. After perfecting the life-soul contract, Wang Feng's strength would reach a certain level. He would directly go to the Central Martial Spirit Palace and let the Federation spread it. It would be too slow to spread it as a teacher. No matter how great the influence of Shrek was, a teacher's influence was limited. If it was spread locally, there would be some effect. Sea God's Pavilion? Tang Yen was stunned. Do you want to enter the Sea God's Pavilion? The Sea God's Pavilion is indeed in Shrek Academy, but it's the core of the Sea God's Pavilion. Those who aren't consecrated by the Academy aren't qualified to enter. Wang Feng frowned slightly. Indeed, it was in Shrek Academy. The Sea God's Pavilion was a little special. Although this mysterious person had a completely new cultivation system, he couldn't enter the Sea God's Pavilion. It wasn't easy to become a teacher in Shrek Academy. The Sea God's Pavilion is nothing. Long Xie said casually, when I'm 10,000 years old, I'll kill anyone below the Soul Douluo level. When I'm 100,000 years old, all titled Douluo will have to call me Master Long. Tang Ye, Bei Bei, Wang Feng smiled. Although this pretentious dragon was bragging, it wasn't without reason. He only had 100 years of soul power, but he could defeat Bei Bei and Tang Ye. If he had 10,000 years of soul power, he could evolve and become much stronger. Those soul emperors and soul sages couldn't even take a few slaps from him. Let alone 100,000 years. How long would 10,000 years of soul power take? Half a year at most. Long Xie used less than half a month to go from 10 years to 500 years. Forget about teacher, Wang Feng said. However, I'll still go to the Sea God's Pavilion. Let's go. I want to see the Shrek Academy anyway. The location was the Sea God's Pavilion. He had to go, although it was a little difficult. Hearing this, Tang Ye immediately whispered to Bei Bei, "See, my guess was correct. He really is a descendant of our Tang sect's Grand Elder, Wang Feng. Otherwise, why would he be interested in Shrek? Bei Bei, how strong do you think he is?" "Oh." Bei Bei shook his head. "I haven't seen him fight yet. I don't know, but his soul beast is so powerful. He shouldn't be weak. Have you noticed that the evil dragon has gotten a lot stronger? The soul-bonded beast's growth rate is too fast." However, no matter how fast it was, they still had reservations about this soul-bonding master. The two of them weren't Huoyuhao. They were innocent and kind. Therefore, Wang Feng didn't think about passing his life contract to them. The two of them were already students of the Shrek Academy. Many of their views were already fixed. They couldn't change their views as easily as Huoyuhao. "Elder, I think you can become a teacher at the Shrek Academy." At this moment, Tang Ye suddenly changed the topic and revealed a smile on her face. "Because with your appearance and looks, I believe that Shrek Academy will make an exception and let you become a teacher. After all, if the students can see your appearance every day, it will also stimulate their motivation to cultivate." End of chapter. Chapter 1079. Wang Feng was speechless. What a tricky angle. Wang Feng thought for a moment and said, "I think you're wrong. If I become a teacher, you students won't be able to eat or sleep. You won't be able to cultivate at all. The academy's overall strength will plummet. That's why I won't become a teacher at the Shrek Academy. I'll be harming you." Tang Ye stumbled and almost fell to the ground when she heard this. This senior isn't humble at all. She wanted to say something like that to mock this senior. Who would have thought that this senior's cultivation was so profound? Under that incomparably handsome face, there was a face that was like a wall. Bei Bei laughed from the side. He laughed so hard that he almost choked. Huoyuhao also laughed foolishly. After that, he started to tease the silver-patterned silkworm. He realized that the silkworm's cultivation was increasing very quickly. His soul rings were also becoming stronger. It was visible to the naked eye. He estimated that it would take 7 days at the fastest, and half a month at the longest. It would reach the 100-year level in just a few days. That's terrifying. At this moment, roars could be heard from the forest. It seems to be a 10,000-year savage beast. Long Xie spat out the blue-silver grass in his mouth and said excitedly, "Savage beasts are a branch of soul beasts. Most of them are ferocious and bloodthirsty. However, they're very intelligent. Their fighting strength is very strong. I didn't expect to see one here. Judging from its aura, it seems to be a rock devil centipede." Tang Ye and Bei Bei looked at Long Xie in shock. Doesn't this soul beast know too much? However, they were immediately shocked. A devil centipede. This is a very powerful savage beast. It has wood and rock elements, and its defenses are very strong. Are you confident? Wang Feng asked Long Xie telepathically. Are you kidding? I'm only 500 year. Long Xie chuckled. If I defeat this 10,000-year rock devil centipede, I'll reach the 1,000-year level in a few days. However, you still have to help me, boss. Tangya and Bei Bei didn't know about the conversation between the two of them. They were only thinking about how to safely leave with Huoyuhao. A 10,000-year devil centipede wasn't something they could fight against. If it was a few thousand years old, they could still take a gamble. Over the years, soul masters and soul beasts had been growing stronger, but so had soul beasts. These savage beasts were the result of certain soul beasts becoming stronger. If only I knew we would encounter such a ferocious beast. If only teacher and the others were here. Tangya smiled bitterly. Bei Bei nodded. If his teacher was here, this rockwood devil centipede wouldn't be a threat to them at all. Yuhao, come. Apply this beast repellent powder specially made by the Tang sect. Although it can't completely prevent a 10,000-year savage beast from sensing it, it should still have some effect. Tangya quickly took out a bag of exquisite white powder that was packed in a glass bottle and passed it to Huoyuhao. Thank you, Sister Tangya, Huoyuhao hurriedly said. But at this moment, Long Xie stepped forward and roared, Little centipede, this lord is here. Come and accept your death. His voice was loud and clear. In an instant the message was sent out. Tangya and Bei Bei were in a mess his mind was filled with. Rustle, rustle. Immediately after, there was the sound of the forest being turned over. Not long later, a huge greenish-gray centipede appeared in front of everyone. This centipede was more than 10 meters long, and had more than 20 segments. Its surface was covered with a layer of grayish-gray rock, which was like armor. It was extremely tough. Its head was as ferocious as a demon's, and it was extremely detestable. A powerful aura was exuded from this centipede's body. Its small eyes stared coldly at the group of people, and its gaze landed on Long Xie. It seemed to sneer. With his extraordinary intelligence, he instantly sensed Long Xie's strength and cultivation base. 500 years? How dare a soul beast of this level challenge him? Oh no, Tangya and Bei Bei's minds went blank. This greenish-gray centipede wasn't slow. It also had 2 elements and was very strong. Teacher! Huoyuhao was also worried as he watched. Evidently, the 3 of them didn't expect Long Xie to lure this rockwood devil centipede here. If it were anyone else, Tangya and Bei Bei would have thought that they were trying to harm them. Wang Feng laughed and said, All right, I'll let you watch a battle between soul charters and soul beasts. You'll have a clear understanding of this. No matter what, Huoyuhao had reluctantly become his cheap disciple. He was now the 2nd soul charter. Huoyuhao had benefited a lot from a simple life contract. However, there was no lack of real battles to support the soul renderer, this new job class that was bound to be glorious in the future. If one thought that a life contract was everything to a soul charter, that would be a huge mistake. A life contract was only the starting point and the core of a soul charter. The core of a soul charter was the growth of the soul master and the soul beast and the battle. A life contract was only one of the cores of growth. Fighting together was the other core of a soul charter. This didn't just include the growth of both parties, but also the tacit understanding between the soul master and the soul beast. It was very important. At the same time, a soul ring rose from Wang Feng's body. His soul power undulations were also released. They weren't strong, they were only rank 16 soul power undulations. His soul power only increased because he had absorbed the dark energy from the evil soul beast's egg and injected it into his purple origin patterns. He was only 4 ranks away from the first purple origin pattern. However, Tangya and Bei Bei were both astonished by his class 14 soul power undulations. They were shocked. My God, this senior's soul power rank is lower than mine? Tangya muttered, then why did he say that my talents are low? Impossible. He can't be the descendant of Wang Feng. That elder is very talented. How can his descendant only have rank 16 soul power? I don't believe it. Bei didn't say anything. He only frowned as he watched. Although this senior only released rank 16 soul power undulations, his aura was stronger than rank 36 or even rank 46 soul power undulations. In this era, one's soul power was no longer determined by one's soul power rank. That was how one's soul power was perceived thousands of years ago. Now, one's soul power rank was only the strength of one's cultivation. The Shrek Academy's principle was that one's soul power rank could be low, but one's fighting ability had to be strong. Simply put, actual combat was more important than anything else. After so many years, fighting beyond one's rank wasn't anything new. Not to mention the era of the Tang sect's ancestors, fighting beyond one's rank wasn't anything new in the past thousands of years. Especially after the third energy tide, humans ushered in the peak era of Soul Masters. Soul Masters' cultivation speed was very terrifying. Titled Douluo were even worse than dogs, they were everywhere. However, the energy tide caused the origin energy of heaven and earth to erupt. The increase in cultivation speed created a large number of titled Douluo with high ranks but low fighting abilities. They could fight beyond one's rank. The cultivation and fighting systems of Soul Masters were on the verge of collapse. Later on, the concept of Soul Cores was born, and Soul Masters were redefined. This collapsed system was pulled back. Therefore, in the current Federation, one's soul power rank was no longer the only standard to prove a Soul Master's strength. At this moment, Wang Feng's body shook. As his soul rings lit up, the mysterious and powerful light and darkness martial soul also appeared. P.S. I can't type anymore. I only have 6 chapters. Sorry. End of chapter. Chapter 1080. The potential of the light and darkness martial soul was stronger than Wang Feng had imagined. The more he used this unique humanoid martial spirit, the more he would be able to comprehend. Of course, the most important thing was that it was handsome. It was different from the chaotic green lotus and Panguak. These two were tool martial souls and could not be possessed. Even the 8 forms of the chaotic green lotus or the chaotic green lotus martial soul true body could not be possessed. Only special soul skill states could bring changes to Wang Feng's body. Infusion of deification, soul-devouring blood wings, ice reflection. However, the real possession of the Angel of Light and Dark martial soul would cause special changes. After the martial soul possession, Wang Feng's mind would be immersed in a special state. It was probably the Sage mode. This mode was similar to the special battle state that Wang Feng had comprehended before, the emptiness realm. His perception was increased by 10 times, and combined with his strong body, he could greatly increase his combat strength in a short period of time. At the same time, Wang Feng's body would be about 2 meters taller under the light and darkness martial soul. His body could be described as majestic. But it would not be awkward, it was a perfect body shape. His eyes shone with a black light that represented darkness and a golden light that represented light. The 7 origin powers formed by the fusion of 14 types would appear clearly in his mind. These 7 types were adjudication, redemption, indestructible, element, devour, nihility, and calamity origin. They represented the 7 purple origin lines. The Angel of Light and Darkness martial soul possessed not only this state of improvement. There was also a strong attribute increase. The 14 pairs of light and darkness wings on his back were not just for show. Thousand Dao Flow was known as the invincible sky. One could imagine. With such a high starting point, Wang Feng's current combat strength could be said to be very strong. Previously, Wang Feng could destroy the 1,000-year evil soul beast with one punch. Now, this 10,000-year rock devil martial soul could only withstand a few punches. Although he was only at rank 16 now, the starting point of the light and darkness martial soul was much higher than the chaotic green lotus. Moreover, in terms of physical form, the angel of light and darkness martial soul had the ability to possess and was not much weaker than the chaotic green lotus martial soul. Of course, this was only from the perspective of the martial soul. If it was a physical form, it would be incomparable. Even if the angel of light and darkness martial soul represented the calamity origin divine king, it could not be compared to the chaotic green lotus. The black hair on Wang Feng's back also grew stronger. His pitch-black hair, along with the fierce wind formed by his aura, seemed to have been added with special effects. Wang Feng had special effects all over his body. Angel martial spirit. Before he could do anything, Tangya, Bei, and Huiyuhao were all stunned. This aura is too strong. Tangya was shocked. Just a martial spirit possession can have such a powerful aura? He really is a rank 16 soul master. What kind of martial soul is this? How can it have such a powerful aura? I remember that the martial spirit of the Tang sect's first elder, Senior Wang Feng, is a special green lotus that can take many forms. Why is it different? This was the Tang sect's record of Wang Feng. It was limited to the chaotic green lotus martial soul. There were no records of the angel of light and dark martial soul, let alone the Penguak. This was because Wang Feng used the chaotic green lotus martial spirit the most. Could it be that he's not a descendant of old ancestor Wang Feng? Tangya began to doubt her own guess. At the same time, the rock devil centipede pounced on Long Xie. A mere 500-year soul beast dared to challenge his authority. It was truly laughable. However, roar! Long Xie let out a deafening roar. The rock devil centipede shuddered and looked at Long Xie in disbelief. Why does this rock devil centipede seem a little off? I seem to be afraid? The rock devil centipede was in disbelief. Roar. It was very intelligent, and it roared furiously to dispel the fear in its heart. At the same time, its huge body charged towards the rock devil centipede. The rock devil centipede stabbed its legs into the ground when it saw this. Suddenly, green light shone from its body. At the same time, countless green vines appeared from the ground and wrapped around Long Xie's body. The strength of this 10,000-year savage beast was on full display. Unlike Tang Yu's blue-silver grass, the rock devil centipede's vines were extremely tough. They managed to stop Long Xie's charge. A cold look flashed across the rock devil centipede's eyes when it saw Long Xie trap. Its huge body swung towards Long Xie without any hesitation. It was as if it had been prepared for this attack. At this moment, a figure flew over from afar and punched the rock devil centipede's tail. It was Wang Feng. Rumble! Even with Wang Feng's strength and the boost from the rock dragon strike, this punch only sent the woodcliff centipede's tail flying. It didn't shatter into pieces. However, the petrification effect made the woodrock centipede's tail extremely heavy. Wang Feng frowned. These savage beasts were indeed very strong. They weren't much weaker than the evil soul beast. This was especially true for this 10,000-year savage beast. It seemed that the tide of energy had increased the strength of these savage beasts after thousands of years. Wang Feng casually threw the vines away. This little centipede is quite capable. Long Xie looked at the tough vines. The wood-type devil centipede was on a completely different level from Tang Yu's blue-silver grass. If I had 1,000-year cultivation, I would have stomped this little centipede to death. Long Xie was a little angry. Cut the crap. Wang Feng grabbed Long Xie's tail and pulled it out of the cage. These soul beasts have changed a lot over the past few thousand years. Don't be careless. You're only 500 years old. At this moment, countless vines appeared from the ground again. They wanted to trap Wang Feng and Long Xie. Long Xie roared and leapt into the air. He used his first soul skill, Flying Rock Spiral. Then, he burrowed into the ground. It quickly cut off those branches from the roots by rotating them. The ground started to crack. Wang Feng flew into the air and dodged the devil centipede's attack like a streak of light. The devil centipede didn't just stand there. After the branches were cut off, it quickly launched a second wave of attacks against Wang Feng. It didn't understand why this soul beast would team up with a human. This human's soul power was so low, but his aura was so strong. The devil centipede felt that it couldn't feel its tail anymore. It had a very strong defense, and it couldn't believe that a rank 10 soul master could pose such a threat to it. The devil centipede felt that something wasn't right. However, due to its dignity as a ferocious beast, it could not leave just like that. End of chapter. Chapter 1081. It stabbed its legs into the ground once again, and the cracked ground quickly mended itself. It seemed to know the control ability of Long Xie's soul skill. It didn't give Long Xie a chance to control it. Following this, the devilish centipede lifted its tail and slammed it into the ground. In an instant, countless fist-sized rocks popped out from the ground like raindrops, bombarding Wang Feng, who was in mid-air like a sky bombardment. Wang Feng was calm as he looked at the rocks. His ghost-like body was like a flash of light. He was like a zigzag bolt of lightning as he pierced through the rocks. Fast, powerful reaction and senses. The devilish centipede was stunned. The 14 wings behind this human flapped slightly, and the entire sky seemed to be under his control. With so many light wings, Wang Feng was able to perform countless difficult movements in the air. Wang Feng's palm was filled with a ball of yellow light. After piercing through the rocks, he punched the devilish centipede's head. Rock corrosion had struck the centipede's head, and it wasn't far from death. However, the devilish centipede could tell what Wang Feng was trying to do. Its ferocious face suddenly flashed with a gray, steel-like light. When Wang Feng's fist landed on the devilish centipede's head, a dull sound was heard. It was as if a round of bombardment had landed on a lump of steel rock. The immense strength didn't do much damage to the devilish centipede. It was only sent flying for more than 10 meters. "It's quite tough," Wang Feng muttered. At this moment, Long Xie flew out from the ground. In the distance, Tangya and Bei Bei looked at each other as they watched this battle. It wasn't common to see people fighting above their level. However, there weren't many people who dared to fight a savage beast above their level. This was because fighting a savage beast was a life-and-death battle. If one wasn't careful, they could die. This big brother Wang, the strength that he displayed when he was just over rank 10. I feel that he has completely surpassed a rank 40 soul master. Bei Bei lowered his voice and said, whether it's speed, strength, or reaction, he's very strong. His physique was very strong, and his soul power rank was low, but the effect he could display was extremely great. 100-year soul skill can even affect a 10,000-year soul beast. His soul power must be very special. However, this 10,000-year-old rock devil centipede needs to be at least level 50 to break through his defense. It doesn't have any weaknesses. And that soul beast of his, its strength is limited against a 10,000-year savage beast. However, they had the upper hand now. He was suppressing the centipede. Very strong. And this is under the condition that they have a tacit understanding with each other. A soul master over the 10th rank and a several hundred-year-old crag beast. He was able to suppress a devil centipede. But the possibility of completely defeating it is very low. The two of them watched the battle intently. The combined fighting strength of a human and a soul beast was indeed very strong. But at this moment, Wang Feng spoke from afar. Long Xie, I think I know its weakness. Long Xie was stunned. Even I didn't know this centipede had a weakness. Boss, aren't you a little too quick? Let's work together later and give him a fatal blow. Wang Feng transmitted his voice to Long Xie. Long Xie nodded. I can give it a try. After a short discussion, the two of them charged towards the devil centipede again. The devil centipede hissed again when it saw Long Xie charging towards it. Countless vines shot out from the ground to trap Long Xie. It was clear that it had to trap one of them first. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to escape. It felt very dangerous, but the fear in its heart was growing stronger. Long Xie didn't move after it was trapped. Instead, it threw a vine at Wang Feng. As soon as Wang Feng grabbed the branch, he pulled it out of the air and directly pulled Long Xie out. At this moment, the devil centipede's tail was no longer petrified. It swung a huge rock several meters in diameter at Wang Feng. Wang Feng shattered the boulder with a single punch. However, the moment the boulder shattered, the centipede, which was more than 10 meters long, leaped up and bit at Wang Feng the moment the boulder shattered. Wang Feng's eyes flashed coldly. He didn't try to defend himself. Instead, he threw the vine in his hand. Long Xie, who was bound by the branches, suddenly used a flying rock spiral in the air like a giant spinning top. Next, Wang Feng swung the dragon evil, and the dragon evil flew out like a boomerang. It landed behind the devil centipede in an arc. Seeing this, the three people who were watching the battle from afar were stunned. In the next moment, the three of them saw a shocking scene. Long Xie, who had turned into a spinning top, landed on the joints of the centipede's back. In an instant, it was as if it had been cut open by a steel saw. The devil centipede had more than 20 segments. Its weakness was actually the joints of each segment. In fact, only when the devil centipede had cultivated for 100,000 years would its body be complete without any weaknesses. Like a train being cut in half, the devil centipede was cut in half in an instant. At this time, the devil centipede flew into the air and opened its huge mouth, about to swallow Wang Feng whole. But as its body broke, it froze in the air, less than a meter away from Wang Feng. It couldn't move forward. Its strength was greatly reduced after its body was cut in half. To Wang Feng and Long Xie, the devil centipede was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, even if it still had some fighting strength. It didn't expect Wang Feng to use himself as bait to get Long Xie to use the flying rock spiral. Like a spinning top, Long Xie threw the devil centipede behind him and broke it in half in mid-air. That joint was its weakest spot, especially when it leapt up from the ground and tried to swallow Wang Feng. His weakness was completely exposed. This kind of tacit cooperation and improvised tactical changes showed the strength of a soul renderer. This was because Wang Feng's soul skills and Long Xie's soul skills weren't very strong. They didn't crush the devil centipede, but they were able to easily defeat the devil centipede by cooperating with their soul beasts. This was the charm of soul charters. It was different from the tacit understanding between humans. With the addition of life contracts, humans and their soul beasts would be able to communicate with each other as they grew stronger. Their tacit understanding made it easier for them to execute tactics. Not far away, Tangya and Bei Bei witnessed this battle. For the first time, they felt the strength and uniqueness of soul charters. There was also a unique charm. The tacit understanding between a soul master and his soul beast was far greater than that between normal teammates. Chapter 1082. The two of them were starting to acknowledge this fighting style. They felt that it wasn't impossible for humans and soul beasts to coexist peacefully. Let's not talk about savage beasts or evil soul beasts. However, there were many soul beasts that could coexist peacefully. Weren't the 10 overlords of the northernmost land also famous ferocious beasts? But didn't they help humans many times? Of course, it might be because they were once partners of the Tang Sect's Grand Elder, and that was why they helped humans. However, reality proved that humans and soul beasts could coexist peacefully even in that era 10,000 years ago. Huoyu Hao was extremely excited as he watched from the side. He looked at the silver-patterned silkworm in his hand. The silver-patterned silkworm was also watching Long Xie and Wang Feng's fight curiously. It had already gained sentience, and this fight was deeply imprinted in its mind. Little Silver, are you very excited too? Huoyu Hao seemed to sense the silver-patterned silkworm's excitement. He couldn't help but say excitedly, "One day you and I will be as strong as teacher. When that time comes, we can defeat many opponents together." "War," the silver-patterned silkworm replied. The Skydream ice worm had stealthily appeared on Huoyu Hao's shoulder at some point in time. He laughed softly and said, "Forming a contract with a soul beast requires both parties to acknowledge each other. Therefore, it's very easy to develop a better understanding of each other through battle. Furthermore, both parties' requests and orders will be executed perfectly during a fight. For humans, it would take years to develop such a tacit understanding. Little Yu Hao, you're very lucky. You've met a teacher-like boss. Your brother Skydream has a premonition. That boss is definitely not an ordinary person. He's very likely to be someone who has surpassed the peak of this world. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to create such a miraculous life-soul contract. Boss, even that Tian didn't give me such a strong premonition. My main element is spiritual. I'm the most accurate when it comes to such premonitions." Huoyu Hao was stunned by the Skydream iceworm's words. "Brother Skydream, could your feeling be wrong? Teacher's soul power is only at rank 16. How strong is he if he surpasses the peak of this world?" Huoyu Hao was too young and his knowledge was too low. He didn't know what the Skydream iceworm meant. The Skydream iceworm laughed a few times. "You're right. It's too low. Your little Silver has seen their battle, and with its spiritual intelligence awakened, it can cultivate quickly. For it, this is a good opportunity to improve." Huoyu Hao hurriedly nodded. At this moment, Wang Feng walked over with Long Xie. Tangya and Bei Bei's hearts beat wildly. On one hand, it was because Zhang Xian was simply too handsome. On the other hand, the battle earlier had widened their horizons and refreshed their understanding of soul charmers. It was as if the other party was glowing in their eyes. While it was shocking, it was also admirable. That ferocious beast still has half of its life left. If you can kill it, you'll be lucky," Wang Feng said casually. Tangya and Bei Bei were stunned for a moment before they were overjoyed. "Thank you, senior," Bei Bei hurriedly said. Tangya was currently at rank 30, and she just happened to need a 10,000-year soul beast. The two of them were here to scout out the situation in the Star Doe forest, so they had to find a good target. He was planning to ask the teachers of the school to kill him. After all, his third soul ring was a 10,000-year soul ring, which was still very important. That centipede's body had been broken into many pieces, and it only had 10 to 20% of its fighting strength left. It would be very easy for the two of them to kill it. Furthermore, this wooden rock devil centipede was very suitable for Tang Ya's soul ring. The two of them walked towards the centipede. "Do you know what a soul charmer is?" Wang Feng looked at Huoyu Hao. This little kid's eyes were filled with stars. Although he wanted to suppress the boiling blood in his heart, he was only an 11-year-old kid. How could he not show his emotions on his face? "Yes." Huoyu Hao excitedly nodded. "That's good." Wang Feng smiled. "Braggart, enter the soul domain to rest for a while before you cultivate. Try to reach a 1,000-year soul ring before you go to the Sea God's Pavilion." Long Xie nodded. Although the battle was very short, it was still very draining for him. After a while, Tangya and Bei Bei also killed that ferocious beast. Wang Feng looked into the distance. Tangya was the current sect leader of the Tang sect, although the Tang sect was a little weak now. He was only the Tang sect's great elder in name back then, but these two people, especially Tangya, were considered his juniors. He would give them some pointers if he could. The God Realm might have lost contact with the Douluo continent now. He couldn't interfere. It was just a soul ring. To Wang Feng, it was a piece of cake. It was a pity. If the two of them were a little younger, and the concept of soul masters having to kill soul beasts to obtain soul rings hadn't been fully formed, Wang Feng would have passed them the life soul contract. If he passed it to the two of them now, they might not agree. Even if they agreed, it would only be a verbal agreement, and they might not actually do it. However, this soul ring was a piece of cake to Wang Feng. To Tangya and Beibei, it was a great help. Tangya absorbed it for a day, and only succeeded in the morning of the second day. Wang Feng shook his head when he saw this ancient method of absorbing soul rings. There were still some changes. When Tangya absorbed these soul rings, she muttered a few sentences, and applied some special medicinal powder on her body. She even consumed a special spiritual pill. Wang Feng guessed that she should be able to clear her mind and temporarily increase the quality of her body. This would be safer when she absorbed the soul rings. But that was all. Wang Feng thought of the Sun-Moon Empire. Logically speaking, the development of soul tools should have an impact on the cultivation system of soul masters. A day later, the group of them headed towards the Shrek Academy. After he joined the Tang sect, Tangya passed the Tang sect's ultimate skills to him. For example, the mysterious heaven technique. This technique wasn't very useful to Wang Feng. When Tang San established the Tang sect, he gave these ultimate skills to the Tang sect. Wang Feng did some research on them. However, Wang Feng didn't really need any of them. The mysterious heaven technique was a special method of cultivating soul power. Wang Feng's soul power was linked to his 7 purple origins, so he couldn't cultivate the mysterious heaven technique. As for the effects of the mysterious heaven technique, it couldn't even compare to the mysterious heaven technique. Purple demon eyes, ghost shadow perplexing track, mysterious jade hands, controlling crane capturing dragon. Wang Feng didn't think much of them, but he had a cultivation method. However, if Wang Feng wanted to cultivate them, these ultimate skills would be a piece of cake for him. Wang Feng would also pay attention to the use of the silver-patterned silkworm. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.